What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Terror Table, a horror movie podcast presented by the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. I am one of your hosts. My name is Mitch Oliver, and today I have my whole crew with me, and they're going to introduce themselves right now, starting with the big four-eyed fuck.
That's me. They used to call me that way in the back, and they call it me to this day, I guess. You got Kyle here. I'm introducing myself, by the way. This is Kyle introducing himself.
Okay. Ever heard of LASIK, Kyle?
No, I haven't. Can you tell me about it? Have you heard of circumcisions? I don't know about them either, but maybe you
Circumcision came first, and then I got LASIK.
Right. Okay.
But either way, both were heavy upgrades. Buzi.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. Other co-host, how you doing?
What a wild fucking intro.
It's 2022, baby.
Hi, I'm Buzi. Welcome to 2022, I guess.
Yeah, welcome to that 2022
I'm
energy.
just a two-eyed fuck.
Yeah, you're just a two-eyed fuck. You're a little cutie. But yeah, the three of us, we are the Terror
Come
Table.
again? Are you saying that I'm not a cutie because I have four eyes?
No, I'm saying
uncalled for. Uncalled for.
We are that horror movie podcast. Every single week, we normally talk about the stuff that we've been seeing, and then we do a little. We go into a main feature where we talk about a specific movie or topic. This week, we are going to be doing our top 10s of 2021. So each of us are going to share our separate top 10 favorite horror films of the year. I think each of us can weigh on our criteria that we chose to go about this year. This is going to be a little bit more of a relaxed year. Originally, I had asked the boys if we could include TV shows on our top 10s, which is something we've never done before. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if Kyle or Buzi had done this. I ended up leaving mine off just because I wanted to make room for some other indies, but I will still talk about a couple TV shows I loved at the end of the episode. But yeah, we'll be going through from 10 to 1, each taking turns talking about our favorite films of the year. But what I was going to ask you guys is what we normally do, what we've done every other year except for last year, which kind of was, we got pretty wasted, and we talked about our favorite.
We talk about at the end? We were just
music.
What music you listen
For like
to?
another hour and a half.
Yeah.
We talked about
I think
favorite albums.
We're going to give you guys the main feast at the very beginning of this episode. We're going to kick right off into our top 10s, so we can go through and give all these movies the love and attention that they deserve. And then we're going to share our honorable mentions, which I'm sure won't take very long. And then we're going to cap the episode off talking about the films we're looking forward to seeing in 2022, the ones that we know are going to be released this year, pending, the world doesn't shut down again. I know Kyle's really bummed out because Morbius was delayed again. I don't know how you're feeling about that, Kyle, but I can't imagine it's any good.
Yeah, it's a bad thing. Like, I think we need more Leto. If we can get like weekly Leto, I'd be pretty happy.
Kyle,
lately,
you need to send more money to his island or wherever he's holed up.
Hey, I will. If I have to send all my life savings so I can get Morbius a couple weeks earlier, I'll do it. But if I can send a message to the world right now, I need it to be known that we need Morbius tomorrow. We need it yesterday, and we need it now.
Yeah, we need it more than ever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, would you guys like to hear a quick word from our sponsors before we get into our criteria this week?
I think I would.
I think we'll actually play the sponsors this week too. My bad.
The Saskatchewan Podcast Network is supported by Direct West. Is marketing getting in the way of running your business? Things like updating your Google listing, thinking of a headline for a billboard, or making sure your website is in good shape? That's where Direct West comes in. You can get local expert marketing help for your business at directwest.com.
All right. Okay, boys.
Wow, that was a really insightful commercial.
Gentlemen. Is that okay to say, gentlemen?
Yeah, of course.
Do you guys consider yourselves gentlemen?
Friendleman?
I don't know if I consider it, but I like it.
I definitely know Kyle does not look like a gentle guy. He's a very rough and tumble kind of dude.
Yeah.
Fair.
He's just oozes that toxic masculinity.
Well,
yeah.
I love Britney Spears.
All right. So we are going to do, we'll do this in kind of serpentine form. So say that my number 10 is a movie that's mentioned on one of your guys' lists. All you got to do is say higher, and we'll stop and move on. And once we get to that film at its highest place where there's no one else left with it higher on their list, we'll each just take turns talking, sharing our thoughts on it, and reminding people where it was on our list. Sounds convoluted, but it's all going to work out, you guys. Don't worry.
I trust you.
Just let Daddy steer this ship.
I think you should go first then, Mitch, if I'm being honest. I think Mitch has to go first.
Okay. So my criteria, there is no real criteria. It's going to be the same as every other year. I just chose to highlight 10 movies that I really enjoyed this year. I think that on previous episodes, and actually I was on a recent episode of Cobwebs, we did a 2-part series on just our favorite movies in general over the course of 2021. I chose to kind of steer back on all my horror movie thoughts, aside from a few, just so I could save all that conversation for the Terror Table. But I mainly just talked about, my favorite films of the year, so like Pig and Mitchell's vs. the Machines, all that kind of stuff.
And Joker.
Joker is always one of the favorites, but it didn't come out this year.
It transcends years.
Well, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it determines my death style.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was waiting for that one. I was waiting for that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk. I will just say, no, actually, I'll wait for the end for that one. But yeah, so I don't have any TV shows on here. I'll talk about. I have 3 TV shows I want to mention at the very end of this episode. But yeah, I guess I will lead us off with my 10th favorite film of 2021. You guys ready?
Ready.
Holy shit,
It is now time. Ring that bell. Ring that giant gong that you got behind you, Kyle. My number 10, David Bruckner's The Night House.
Higher.
All right.
Higher?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think some people might be surprised that before we move on, I just will say some people might be surprised that this is even on my top 10, because I kind of gave it a lukewarm review. Gave it another watch recently. I still also really liked it the first time I saw it, but I knew I needed to give it another watch because there's something lingering in me about this movie. So I will get to it once we get there, if it's on Kyle or Buzi's list. So yeah, once again, my number 10 is The Night House. Let's go over to Kyle.
Beautiful. Well, I'm excited because my number 10 is a film that I actually didn't think was going to make this list, but the more I thought about it, the more it stayed with me in a really fun way. And that is Slumber Party Massacre. Of course, 2021's Slumber Party Massacre.
Should we go back to just each?
I'm into
like
this. That's good. This is good.
Okay, so it's higher on both of our lists.
I said what I had to say. I said what I had to say.
Yeah.
And I'm good. That's good. Let's get it going.
Kyle's number 10,
is fun.
Slumber Party Massacre. Buzi, what's your number 10?
My number 10 is Werewolves Within.
Higher.
Oh,
really?
I like this.
Oh, yeah, you're good. I saw it recently. I enjoyed it, but yeah, it's not on my list. So have at her, Buzi.
Oh wait, no, Kyle said he had it
higher.
higher.
It's higher.
Sorry. Oh right. Oh wow.
So it goes back to you then.
Holy shit. Okay. Well,
Oh wow. I feel like we're on a game show right now.
That, and I feel like this is it's gonna either be the fastest episode or all of a sudden it's just gonna become super long.
No, I think it'll make for more.
It'll make sense.
Conversations. I like this.
Yeah, it's gonna work itself out. I think this is good.
Right. So my number 10 was The Night House. My number 9, Slumber Party Massacre.
Higher.
Oh
boy.
Honestly.
So all right.
My whole list is just
which one of us is Steve Harvey?
Yeah. Okay. So Kyle, I think it's your turn again.
I think you're right. Okay, my number 9. Might be funny. My number 9 is Last Night in Soho.
Higher.
Fuck yeah, man! This is what the listeners need.
Oh yes. It's like a build up too.
It really is.
People are enjoying this.
There's a lot of anticipation in my veins right now for some reason.
Yeah. All right. So your number 9. Sorry, you said that was your number 9.
Number 9, Last Night in Soho. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's higher on my list. Next on to Buzi.
My number 9 is The Power.
You're good. This is the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I really dug this movie though.
Okay. Okay. So first off, this is written and directed by Karina Faith. So it's in 1974. A young nurse is forced to work a night shift in a crumbling hospital as the power goes off across Britain. So this is a very stylistically beautiful film. It's very rich, and it uses a great set piece to incorporate a lot of fear, and it actually changes your main character quite a bit, which is something interesting, as opposed to things just happening to your character throughout. Your character changes throughout this, and there are some really memorable scenes in this, so I definitely recommend The Power.
Hell yeah.
I never got around to watching this one, but it looked really great, because I think, have both of you spoken about it on the show previously? I know Mitch, you did at least.
Yeah.
But this was a movie where it was like the next week Buzi had talked about it, like after I had seen it. And
Right.
yeah, I really liked it. I thought Buzi would enjoy it. So I'm happy to hear it made your top 10. It's in my honorable mentions. I think it's just a really, really tight little indie film, super well directed. And it's like one of those movies that shows what you can really accomplish with a really awesome hook and a low budget.
And just a great set piece. It's like same as like something like Session 9. It just uses that set piece that has a built-in creepiness to it.
Yeah,
Right.
respect. So the religious, creepy, haunting film, The Power from 2021. That's Buzi's number 8. So it's back to my number 8.
I believe so.
All right, my number 8 is Coming Home in the Dark. Not on either of your
You're
lists.
Didn't get a chance
to
to
it.
see it. No, I didn't get
Okay.
to it.
Well, let me tell you guys, this is a film that we showed at the Saskatchewan Fantastic Film Festival this year, and it is now available on Netflix. So you can go out and see this as soon as you want to. It's available everywhere on Netflix, but it's the debut feature film from New Zealand director James Ashcroft. I've spoken multiple times on the show about my love and appreciation for Australian horror films. And though this one is bred from New Zealand, they're not too far from each other. And it lives right alongside some of my faves for all of the same reasons. Coming Home in the Dark is a super mean, cynical, and ultra depressing story of torment, trauma, and revenge. And this is just like, it's kind of like a sort of like a road trip movie that blends elements of things like Last House on the Left, but mixes it with like just really intense revenge thrillers. And this is one that kicks off with a bang. Anyone who has seen it will know what I'm meaning. It's one of those movies that if it doesn't grab your attention within 15 minutes, I don't know what's wrong with you, because it's one of those ones that seems like it's going to be a slow burn, then all of a sudden just fucking we're off to the races. And it's a very style, like it's one of those, it's got Mitch Oliver's style written all over it. You know, if you know the kinds of movies I like my dirty tough guy movies, my tough men in on the road being crazy with beards and trench coats.
Just a couple of tough men
Just
being
a couple
tough
of
on the
dudes
road.
being dudes.
From what I saw of this film, it did kind of give me like Blue Ruin vibes a little bit. I don't know if that's true, but
Blue Ruin's without a doubt a better movie, but it's the style, like the aesthetic. The aesthetic is what's similar to Blue Ruin. So
Cool.
It is definitely one of those movies that it's one of those movies that just it hooked me as soon as it kicked off, and it really unfolds into being something really grim and dark, and I just really, really, really enjoyed it. And I thought it was very intense with a really wicked lead performance from I can't remember his name, but I'd mentioned this on the podcast before, but he played Mary Jane Watson's side boyfriend in Spider-Man 2.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't
A
seen him in
classic
anything else.
role.
That
His
guy.
name is Daniel Gillies, but he plays like his character in this is named Mandrake, which don't let that turn you off. I am also one of those guys who's like, well, oh, he's got one of those cool names like Spider or
Mandrake.
yeah. Hey, what's up? My name's Python.
See, they call me Panic because I never do.
I would actually put this in line with something like Buzi. I know a movie you really loved that I enjoyed a lot as well, as Alone from last year, which is like a kind of a intense road movie. I loved Coming Home in the Dark. It's my number 8, and I highly recommend people checking it out. It's definitely more along the lines of like a really sadistic dark thriller. I'm sure some people wouldn't consider this horror, but fuck y'all. This is my list.
All right. Well,
Yeah, if anyone's listening to this and it's like, hey, don't put that on your list, it shouldn't go there. Just be like, Mitch said, fuck y'all. So
Yeah, fuck
yeah,
y'all.
major call out to everyone.
Yeah, shout out. Yeah, so now Kyle.
All right. Well, my number 8 is Censor.
Not on my list.
Not on
Honorable
my list.
mentions.
All right, cool. Well, this is a 2021 film directed by Prano
yeah, no shit.
Bailey Bond. Some of
Just
them
fucking-
are on the line. I'll get to at least one.
I needed to wait for somebody to do it because I'm like, yeah, just say it's from 2021, you asshole.
Yeah, you stupid fuck.
Man, what are years anymore? Let's be honest. But this one is great. This features the lead character's a film censor who actually gets herself entangled with a particular film and how it kind of relates to her own life and sort of, I guess, sort of supernatural ways in a sense. There is a really interesting kind of, I guess, 80s analog aesthetic to this film. It was shot on 35mm, and you can tell it looks like beautiful in that really specific way that it's going for. It really achieves a certain look that it that it wants, and it lends to the filmmaking itself, not just like aesthetically. Really, really enjoyed the performances in this film. Some of the stuff in here is just really, it's really tragic to watch. Like a lot of it is is really like familial stuff. It can be hard for me sometimes, and so watching this is like it really got to me, dealing with kind of some.
Are you talking about because you and your sister watch Teeth together?
Yeah, similar stuff to
Okay.
that. Yeah, the teeth connection is what I was thinking for sure. So I don't know, that was something that really stood out to me watching this one. And I think beyond that, like the themes itself, I think the idea of like a censor is someone who works in censorship is something that doesn't get explored very often in horror, but totally should, because it's like a really good topic to talk about. And I think if you're a fan of the genre, you're going to appreciate this, because there's been debates of censorship in horror forever, and what that means. Should it exist? Should it not exist? To what extent? That whole conversation gets deconstructed in this film in a really, really good way. I have my own opinions on that, but even watching this, it kind of made me thinking like, oh, okay, well, fair enough. Like
maybe Better Watch Out is a dangerous movie.
Maybe that thing should be banned in Germany. But at the end of the day, Censor's worth checking out. If you haven't seen this one, I would. I believe it's on Shudder right now. So peep game on Censor.
I really like Censor. This was one that just narrowly missed it off my list, and it's at the top of my honorable mentions. Just like Kyle said, the 35 millimeter, like it looks really, really good. Like the aesthetic is probably my favorite part about the movie. And it does have that really interesting conversation. Like they find a way to make it interesting, because one thing you didn't,
it's not heavy handed either. Cause like, I mean, it is in the sense that like it's centered around it, but it's not like,
no, what makes it interesting is that she's specifically censoring video nasties, like movies.
That's right.
Like snuff film, like movies that some people, back when they're on VHS, like a lot of people just thought that they were watching snuff films. And there were times where it's like, how can you tell if it is or it isn't? That was really cool. And the lead actress was really solid in it. And specifically the last like 20 minutes of the movie, like it was so just narrow. Insanity. It was so narrow. From this movie could have been like, it's my honorable mention, but it very well could have been like in my top 3 with just a couple different twists. Like there was just a couple things that I wasn't super crazy about, but overall I just thought it was a really cool movie, and I definitely recommend it. I was saying, me and Jason Hamill were talking about this. He was saying that he would pair it next to Possessor, Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor, which was my number one last year. And then I was saying, like, I was thinking Videodrome, like it's, the types of movies that really just dissect the difference between art and reality. And so it's really cool little indie movie. So Censor is Kyle's number 8. Buzi.
Yes.
All right. So my number 8, which has already been mentioned on here, is David Bruckner's The Night House.
Did you see it, Kyle?
I did not see this one. Didn't catch it.
Okay.
So it is our time, Mitch, to talk about this film, and we have it fairly close in proximity.
Yeah.
So.
I think how should we work this? The person who had it lower goes first, or the person who has it higher?
Yeah, you know what? I think you should tell me why it isn't higher, and then I'll tell you why mine is one higher.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Really, in reality, I don't know. I often watch movies with a more critical eye when it's from the works of directors that I idolize, and David Bruckner is one of those. Like he's one of those guys that I just kind of am enamored with him, and I've loved his work so far. Like his segment Amateur Night in VHS, the original, that was the infamous Siren episode, the segment, and that just left such a huge mark on me, and I was so into it. And The Ritual, which has become one of my favorite modern horror movies, I just absolutely love that movie. And this one, for me, it's I don't find it as strong as The Ritual, but just the movie on its own, it is so, there's no denying that Rebecca Hall gave the performance of the year in this. Like, and I'm talking not even just in genre. The only other person that, like, I think if you've seen Spencer, it's not a horror movie at all, but Kristen Stewart is just like undoubtedly, like, to me, there's not even a debate. There's no way that you can say that Kristen Stewart didn't give the best performance in general this year, but Rebecca Hall is not very far behind her, and she didn't get to play Princess Diana, like she had to just play this broken widow in this film. And I think there's just no denying that she was absolutely incredible here. And I would say that Hall was operating like not too far behind Kristen Stewart and Spencer, but it's just like The Night House invents a lot of really successful and cool new scare tactics. There's some stuff that like I've talked about on the show before revolving around like some crown molding on walls, and like Bruckner just found a way to like make some new scares, and it felt very fresh. And he basically just built a really tense, atmospheric, and creepy platform for Rebecca Hall to dance on. And this thing is mainly on my list because I wanted to highlight how good that Woody Harrelson sympathizer was in this film. Like, she is truly one of the best actresses living right now, and this might be her best performance. Like, she is so fucking good in this movie, and I have no doubts that if Kyle watched this, you would really enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I didn't catch this one, unfortunately, but I'm happy to hear that both of you guys have it so high on your list, or are made of the list at least.
Yeah, no, it's my number 10. I needed to put it on there just for Rebecca Hall's performance alone, and it did enough things that I loved. Like, there was just, the reason it's not higher is there was a couple plot points that just didn't gel with me. Like, it just they didn't click for me. And it's not saying that it's bad or that, you know, Bruckner doesn't know what he's doing, because clearly the guy's a mastermind. But it's just one of those things where it just didn't click with me personally in my taste. So The Night House is my number 10. Buzi, why was it your number 8?
All right, so I think the most important thing, I talked about this movie, oh gosh, it was a couple episodes, it wasn't that long ago. So I'm kind of just trying to remember everything about that. But the main thing I get out of this is it's a film that deals with grief in a very interesting way by turning it into kind of a whodunit crime drama. And I'll say that in the best way possible. Is this movie doesn't feel like a whodunit crime drama, but the way that you're invested in your characters really does make it feel like that. Because obviously every movie is trying to tell you a story in terms of giving you new information as you go along. Some don't do it as well as others. And I think that David Bruckner has found a perfect way to do that, where he breadcrumbs you that you want to invest more and more time in it. And a lot of the times he'll give you pieces of that turn into payoffs later on. And I think that this film rests a little, or not a little, quite a bit of on the shoulders of the payoff at the end, and whether you like that or not, and dealing with the confrontation of grief, loss, and sorrow. And I overall really like this movie. I've said it time and time again, I really like depressing movies. And I think this movie does a great job of just working through a lot of that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, that, and one thing also I want to point out, even though everyone who ever talks about this movie points this scene out, but there's a specific scene, like she plays a school teacher, and one of the mothers comes to her class kind of wondering why her kid didn't get a higher grade. And like that scene alone, it's like near the beginning of the movie, is just so fucking good. And Hall is just on fire, and the movie's worth a watch just for that scene alone. And then on top of that, you just get a bunch of really cool scares that I've never seen anyone else do before.
I honestly, it's a testament to her performance that I would have just watched an hour of her dealing with grief alone without any of the other drama that comes into it in the horror elements. She just has a great performance where you want to see how this character develops herself moving forward from tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
Beautiful.
So is it back to me now?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes. Okay, so this is one that I'm not sure if either of you guys have gotten around to watching, but I highly recommend it for both of you. Hope maybe you guys have seen it. My number 7 is The Vigil.
No, I have not.
Oh no,
No?
I haven't seen this one.
Okay, so this one is written and directed by Keith Thomas, who's currently directing an episode of Guillermo del Toro's new show, The Cabinet of Curiosities. He's also doing the remake of the Stephen King book movie Firestarter. But yeah, this is one of those movies. I have a couple on my list that had some pretty interesting, if not troubled, releases. So this one was originally set to release in 2019, but ended up being released in 2021 on Apple TV and Hulu. So that's where you can check it out if you want to now. But the synopsis is he's this Jewish guy who's hired by a member of an Orthodox Jewish community to watch a deceased body overnight as part of a religious practice, but he finds himself opposite of a malevolent force.
Very cool. That sounds cool.
So this thing is like The Vigil. It's a creepy supernatural film with some really haunting moments, and there's some really gut-punching twists and turns. And this is one of the dark horses for the year for me, because now I'm starting to see top 10s come up, and I've seen it on a few lists, which is cool. But like when I had watched it, like I just made a huge list of all the movies I hadn't seen yet. And I remember seeing this one come up when it was released, and I heard some people really enjoyed it, and I gave it a shot. And man, this movie, it's fucking awesome. Like this thing would pair really nicely with a movie like The Autopsy of Jane Doe. If you're a fan of those types of movies, like those supernatural kind of slow burn movies that have some really intense imagery and sequences, this is one I think Buzi's going to really dig.
It's already on my
I
list.
think both of you guys will really dig it. Yeah, I think both of you guys will really dig this one. It's one I would do an episode on it if you guys ever wanted to, because it's a blast, and it's a nice little lean hour-and-a-half film. And I think this is a directorial debut. I think I have a couple on here that are directorial debuts.
Wow.
Coming Home in the Dark was this is his. He had done a short, and then now The Vigil, and now he's doing Firestarter and Cabinet of Curiosities. Like this guy's got some skills, and the lead actor is really solid. It's fucking like sad at times, but it's one of those ones that's mainly just, it's creepy. Like this would be a great Halloween night movie. Has no Halloween themes to it, but it's just, it's a spooky supernatural film. So The Vigil,
it has nothing to do with Halloween, but it'd be sick.
Yeah, well, like doesn't need to be set on Halloween.
I get it.
It's a creepy one. I definitely recommend The Vigil. I thought
this looks spooky.
This is one that I'm like kind of surprised. It was when I had placed this at number 7 that I'd realized, Mitch, you do this every year. You always say it hasn't been that great of a year, but now it's just like, oh my God, looking at this list, there's some fucking bangers that came out this year.
Every year. I was saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, last year was the first one where I was like, okay, this was an awesome year. But I do remember 2019 was kind of weak. But last year was sick too. But yeah, this year, I got some really great ones I'm going to be talking about. But the Vigil, big Mitch Oliver stamp of approval.
Love it.
That's what every director yearns for.
It's like one of those plaques at the end.
It's a little,
if they're lucky, they'll get it.
It's one of those the reef, like on the palm has the reef,
the laurel leaves.
Yeah. Just Mitch Oliver stamp of approval.
Yeah.
2 leaves, but instead of the wreaths, it's 2 circumcised dicks or uncircumcised dicks. I'm sure
it's like the Nintendo seal of approval or whatever.
Yes. Oh, sorry, my mom calls it Nintendo. Kyle.
Oh,
your number 7.
My number 7 is Werewolves Within.
Oh, that was on mine. Yep. Yeah, perfect.
I did just watch this over Christmas though.
Okay. Well, I guess Buzi, you wanna talk about it first?
Yeah, I was not prepared to immediately go into talking about this.
It's fine. This is what the game show speedrun version.
Yeah.
Is, you got to be on your feet.
Based off of a video game, correct? I remember playing this with cards when I was in high school.
Okay.
It is based on a game. It's right, but it's I think it's like a VR game that came out like 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, you guys are entirely right.
This is based on like it started as like a card game, I believe, because like I remember playing this.
Oh, okay.
Just shout out Sam Richardson.
100%.
Little buff boys. Little buff boys.
Pick one of the boys.
Right. Shout out him. Okay, cool. I never played the game.
Have you not watched it? I think you should leave.
Oh, I got it. I was busy looking into Ubisoft lore.
Little buff boys. All right, keep going, you little buff boys.
All right, so this is directed by Josh Rubin and pretty straightforward. What would you consider the story, Kyle? It's pretty straightforward of locked in who did it, like The Thing kind of.
It's like exactly. There's a couple different things going on, but for the most part, it's a mystery, I guess.
Yeah, I think that this movie has some really cool special effects, and I think the big thing that helps it is, yes, it's a horror movie, but it relies so much on these characters and their quirks and how likable they are, and you trying to figure out based on these quirks what's going on with them. And obviously that's a pretty straightforward story because it's been done. Like this is basically like The Thing with a werewolf
or Knives Out.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the same basic concept.
Yeah.
So
there's a million. It's a whodunit. There's a million. It's not new.
Yeah, so that means that when you have something like that, you already have that built in who are you're trying to figure out who did it the whole time. And I think it's just fun with this, because with a story like that, you need to have fun characters that rely on to make it interesting. It's not just like
Totally.
this person's unlikable, this person's unlikable. And I think they did a great job of this. I think it was a lot gorier than I was expecting.
Same
And
here.
yeah, and like Sam Richardson carried this. I thought he was such a
It was
a
it was
fun-
great casting. It's perfect casting.
it's just such a fun character, and like I said, I don't like usually like fun horror movies. I like dark and depressing ones. So I think this is a great film, and obviously any film with a werewolf I'm going to be checking out and judging, and I think this one passes the cool test, the cool dude 2021 test.
Yeah, I was like really surprised by this one because like we all watched Scare Me last year,
And I love Scare
Yeah.
Me.
and you know, I didn't like love that movie as much as you did, Boozy, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and like I liked what Josh Rubens was going for with that film.
Mhm.
And I could tell that like his style was, or at least just based off that singular
I think
film.
that the fact that with what, sorry, just to cut you off for a second
No,
here,
it's fine.
just based on what that movie, I like glad that you brought that up. Based on that movie, that's what I was really impressed with, is anybody who can keep you entertained with just two people telling stories in a cabin, it has great storytelling chops. Like that's just it's either you can or can't tell that kind of story, right? Because that's what I found very engaging about that, is like, holy shit, they're not doing a lot, but they're making so much happen for me.
So I guess I'm a little bit the opposite with you on that one then, because
That's totally
because
fair.
for that one that did work, but at a certain point it kind of ran its course for me. Felt like it would have been a great short, like a 5 out of 5 short in a way.
Right.
That's kind of how I felt about it personally. But in terms of this movie, I felt like what his kind of directorial style was going for in that one really shined here, where it was like, he's clearly a fantastic comedy director,
Mhm.
but not even that, and also a fantastic horror director too, because he's able to, I mean, we've talked about this a million times, you know, putting comedy into horror, it's got mixed results.
It's all timing.
It's all timing. Yeah. You gotta know what you're doing. Josh Rubens absolutely knows what he's doing here. I think it, like we mentioned with Sam Richardson, he's fantastic in this film, but the rest of the cast is great too. You know, there are a lot of like exuberant, kind of over the top characters to some extent. A few of them are, but I've just really enjoyed like the somewhat wholesome tone of this film, which I know maybe that's like lame to say, but like we just don't get that enough in horror.
It's part of its charm, is that it's so charming.
It is, yeah, and it wears it's on its sleeve.
I think that makes the jokes work better. Like I think a lot of the jokes work better because they are based on that wholesome idea. They're not just like swearing and making fart jokes.
They're not mean.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone everyone's likable enough. Obviously, there's people who are likable or less likable than others in this film, but like you were mentioning, Boozy, it really just comes down to like wanting to be around these characters and wanting to follow them and at least caring about them enough to have the narrative play out. And it does a really, really good job of engaging the viewer in that way. And I thought it was genuinely like pretty funny. Like, I don't know. I feel like comedies.
I think even the ending, they did such a great job of like kind of being, how would you like, it was like a sarcastic ending almost. And I like
that was what reminded me the most of Scare Me, actually. It was kind of some of those final conversations between certain characters where it was a little bit, I guess, meta a little bit, or a little bit self-referential, and I liked it. I feel like it was a little bit more subtle in this film than Scare Me, and that worked a lot more for me. I was excited to see this one from the get-go. I remember actually reading this being in production while we covered Scare Me, and I was like, okay, like interesting, like based on a video game, werewolves, cool, we'll see what happens. And yeah, I had a blast. Like I'm down to watch this one sooner than later again.
Kyle likes werewolf movies.
Yeah, I guess I do. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so this one's also on my honorable mention. So like I didn't not like this movie. It just got edged out by some other ones that I was more into. But I mean this with the highest praise and the most respect. Josh Rubens has that big ADD energy, and that's what I like about it. Like I like that he's unabashedly, like you see it in Scare Me, and like because he actually is physically in that film and he's doing all these different characters and he's commanding the screen with just himself, and you can feel that throughout his script. Like in Werewolves Within, I know he co-wrote the script. I think he co-wrote it. I know it was.
I don't think anyone's
he didn't directly write it though.
No, he didn't write it. I guess it was Mishna Wolf wrote it, but he did write and direct Scare Me.
He did, yeah. I think you can totally tell there's like Edgar Wright influences in this film.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And Raimi, man, and Sam Raimi, like you can just see it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. That's definitely one that even though it's not on my list, I co-sign. Good movie.
Huge. Yeah, shout out co-signing.
Yes, shout out. All right, so now it's back to moi.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Kyle, get ready to talk again, baby, because my number 6, The Last Night in Soho.
Oh, baby.
Oh, it's going down.
I thought this one was going to be higher.
Meet me at the club. It's going down.
So Last Night in Soho. I'll talk about it a little bit, just to give you my thoughts on it. Obviously, I guess maybe not obvious. I don't know how much I've talked about it on the show, but Edgar Wright's a fantastic director. I like most of his work, if not love most of his work. So I was very excited to see this film, especially because it just seemed like a change of pace for him. Baby Driver was a change of pace in a way in itself, and then this was just kind of reaching out a little bit further, and so I was happy to see what he would do, especially kind of reaching to the horror genre again, which is fantastic to see. And this one, I loved the world of this one. The overall vibe is what really got me. Like, I love perspective that he took on the present day and the past, and I think that was something that was clearly executed very, very well, in my opinion. And I love the connections that he makes between fashion and socialization and all kinds of different stuff that's kind of being talked about in this film. I really, really liked it. Just the general attention to detail that Edgar Wright brings in all of his films, that was brought here, but in a very unique way. It's that same kind of, I guess what you said, like ADHD energy that maybe you could see in some of his other work, but here it's there, but it's different. And I think that's just growth of a great director. So I was really, really happy with that. I will say for me, it personally kind of just fell flat a little bit in the last act, and that's what kind of made it lower on my list. I was expecting to really, really love this movie, and I didn't quite love it that much, but to me, it was still like a standout film in horror for me this year. And if you haven't seen it yet, definitely recommend checking it out.
Cool. Well, yeah, just pretty much echo what you had said. Like, I love Edgar Wright's work, specifically the Cornetto trilogy and Scott Pilgrim. So basically everything except for Baby Driver. Fuck that movie. But
I don't hate it, but I don't love it. It's mid for me. I don't know.
I think I need to watch it again. But the problem is half the cast is canceled, and I hate them all.
It's a tougher watch.
Do we bring back the cancel corner to?
Canceled.
Double cancel that fucking douchebag Ansel Elgort?
Might as well. I never liked that guy.
Yeah, fuck him, man. He's
exactly
terrible.
Who?
West Side Story kid. Fault in Our Stars. Kid with just absolutely no charisma.
Fuck that guy. I don't know who it is, but fuck
he's
him.
the Baby Driver.
Yeah, he's got a musical career as well. So that's how you know.
The fact that he managed to land a lead role in a Spielberg movie, let alone like a remake. Okay, whatever. We're not here to talk about West Side Story. Fuck Ansel Elgort though. But yeah, I know this one, it's been very divisive, which is kind of sort of surprising for me, because I thought that even it was kind of surprising because I thought like a lot of Edgar Wright fans, myself being one of them, tend to be, pretentious fucks who pretend to like something more than they actually do. Even if they didn't like it, they'll still praise it.
Right.
CC Baby Driver. But this one, I was kind of surprised to see that a lot of people were kind of punching down on this thing. But I don't know, man, it really, really worked for me. Like you said, I loved the style. I loved its commitment to homaging 1960s London with also Italian giallo films and like warts and all. Like, I love there are issues with both of those things that do happen in this movie, and I just love them. And I loved how it was a true-blooded horror movie with like all of Wright's masterful visual flares.
It was more of a horror movie than I thought it was going to be, because I thought from the trailer maybe we were getting a little bit too much of it. Like, hard to tell, but it ended up being straight up a horror film, big time.
It's the only movie that I did this to this year, where after I went and saw it, I came home and I watched the trailer again, because I was like, what? Like, that was way crazier than I was expecting. I watched the trailer. I'm like, oh man, they did not do a good job marketing this as a horror movie. Like, this is one that I think Buzi might, I don't know. I don't know if he'd like it, but it's way more of a horror movie than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be kind of like, they're making this Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Sam Raimi's doing it. Of course, I'm excited. Of course, I'll be there day one. But they keep saying it's a horror movie. Fuck off. Fucking Marvel's not going to put out a horror movie with Doctor Strange. It's going to have monsters in it. That doesn't mean it's a horror movie. This is a fucking giallo, just blood-drenched, crazy murder mystery horror film, and I loved it, man. I thought the score was just super vibrant and fun. You could say the exact same thing about the visuals, but it was really the lead performances from Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy that I just fell in love with. Like,
they were great.
I did not know, like, when the movie started, I wasn't sure how I felt about Thomasin McKenzie, and I didn't know how I would possibly relate to a movie about this teenage girl who wants to go off to London to be in fashion school. But holy shit, like I think the fashion thing takes such a back seat because that's not what they're actually trying to comment on here. It's the mystery at hand. That's just the overall canvas, the setting of the film. But I think the fashion really sinks in where the movie has a lot to say about identity, and how people perceive themselves and how they show themselves to the world. And you see that in all of the mirror shots, which is, an Italian staple. And that can also seem like a very, I hate to say this word because I don't know why I'm going to say it, but I want to wedgie every single fuck who's ever said this word in their life. But it's kind of a pedestrian auteur. Like anyone who says pedestrian, I fucking hate that. Yeah, no, but like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's such an easy thing to, it's like, oh, I'm going to be a really edgy director. So guess what? The whole movie's going to be one shot. It's going to be a oneer, or I'm going to have a bunch of crazy camera tricks.
I see what you're saying. It does not read that way at all.
No, because Wright is a masterful director and an even better storyteller. Like, there are moments in this where I'm like, how the fuck did he pull this off? And that guy with the boulder face, Matt, is his name Matt Smith?
Matt Boulderface.
Yeah, I forget his name. He's Doctor Who, right?
Yeah. He's good in this too, though. Like, I really like the energy. Even just talking about it now, I'm surprised that this didn't crack my top 5 because when I left the theater, I was like, I think that might be top 3 right for me. And as of right now, I think it still might be. Like, Shaun of the Dead is still my favorite, and Scott Pilgrim comes to mind. But I really, really love Last Night in Soho, and I recommend it to people if you haven't checked it out yet. I think it's definitely a must see this year. It's something that you got to at least see to know if you're going to vibe with it or not. Because I feel like there's a lot of people out there who aren't checking it out because they were turned off by the trailer, and it's really not. It's so much more horror than the trailer.
I'm right here. I'm right here.
Yeah, there's more going on than just that for sure. It's still on my list to watch. It's just I'm looking at the trailer. I'm like, this probably isn't my kind of thing. But if it's not like the trailer, then that's great.
I mean, it is, but it's also like, it's way more horror than I think.
Okay, yeah, and that's great because I expected it to kind of be really light on the horror. It'll turn into that what was that Lindsay Lohan movie where she was the dead stripper and she had to figure out who killed her?
Oh my god, I know who killed me.
Classic.
Yeah.
It's classic.
I cannot. Holy shit, what a double feature. Last Night in Soho and I Know Who Killed Me.
I think
I don't know if you'd love life.
I don't know if you'd
love that movie in 10 years.
I don't know if you'd love this one, Buzi. I don't know if you'd love it, but I think you would get something out of it, maybe more than what you're anticipating right now. Definitely check it out.
Okay.
It's really good. I really liked it. Just talking about it now, mate. It's the first one that we've talked about today, or that I've talked about, where I'm like, fuck, I want to watch this tonight. I might watch it afterwards. Because I've only watched this one once. But yeah, I really, really liked it. So that's my number 6. Moving on to you, Kyle.
Okay, so number 6. My number 6 is Saint Maud.
Isn't this Kyle's turn?
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it's Kyle's turn, but also higher.
Okay, higher. Okay, perfect.
It doesn't matter too, Kyle.
It's higher for me too. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know you seen it. Okay, awesome. All right, so Saint Maud is Buzi's number 6.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love yours.
Okay, my number 6 is Malignant.
Oh, higher.
Okay. Understood. All right, Mitch, what's your number 6?
Is there a way that I can have my opinion of lower put into this? Oh, Mitch, I was waiting for someone to say something so I did a Creed reference. And you just cut the whole thing.
Right.
Buzi, you should do like an after show where it's like Buzi's lower hour, or you just
or just the end of this episode will be Kyle and I explaining Malignant to
Right.
Buzi.
I think it'd be really funny if it was just me listening to this back after like the people already heard it and commenting on like, this is the part where Mitch says something stupid.
You keep pausing every 5 seconds. Oh,
Yeah.
and they're wrong again for this reason.
I just want to
my
point out
nuts.
how wrong they are right
Check
here.
out subsection B to understand why Kyle is wrong yet again.
Okay, so are we on to top fives now?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
This is madness. I'm certain we're going to be continuing on.
I love it.
Can't believe it. Can't believe it's only number 5. Also, why do I keep saying that? Number 5 is a great place. Candyman. Nia DaCosta's Candyman.
Higher.
Wow.
Not on your list, Buzi?
It is.
Is it higher?
It was this one.
Oh, okay. So we're tied.
Yeah.
All right. So now we got to wait for Kyle to get to
I guess that's
Candyman.
fun. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do my number 5 question mark.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, this is exciting. Top 5.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 5 is My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To.
It was my number 3 last year. So
Yeah, of course, Mitch saw this last year. This one became a little bit more widely available in 2021, so I considered it 2021. Buzi, does this on your list at all, or is this a last year thing for you?
he saw
Should I
it last
continue
year.
on?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was last year.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've definitely talked about this film on the show before. This is Jonathan Cortez. I'm just double checking. This is a really, really special, quite intimate horror film, vampire film, without giving too much away.
Well, you just did.
Well,
Just kidding. It's pretty obvious.
in
from
the-
the trailer.
It's in the
it's
write
pretty
up.
obvious. Yeah. And just a little bit of background on it. It's about brother and sister who take care of their other sibling to various extremes to I don't know if I want to give much away, but essentially it really deals with family dynamic in a extremely tragic, heartfelt, and earnest way.
And what you'll do for your family. The
And what you'll do
extents
for
you'll
them.
go.
Yeah, and it focuses on that in a really, really direct way, but at the same time there's a lot to kind of chew on in this film. I love how quiet and minimal and collected the film is. It's really it can be complex. This is the kind of film you could write a complete like thesis on if you wanted to, but at the same time it really delivers everything to you straight. That's what I love about it, because it's
so
not
simple.
it is so simple, but it's not, yeah, not to discredit it. That's what makes
That's
it
a compliment.
it's definitely a compliment. Like, I think that's what stands out to me from this film, is because you're left with just really a chill watching this film. You're left with something to like really chew on and think about and dissect.
It's simple so that you can spend more time with these characters, and I think that's like the biggest hinge of that.
I
Totally.
think it's also like you could watch it. Like, I think a lot of people, I hope more people have seen it at this point, because it's on
Right.
Shudder now. It's
Yeah.
available now, and this is a movie that I just blew to no end last year, and I will continue to. It's become one of my favorite movies, and not just because that's my homie and I love Jonathan, but like I loved the movie so much before I even knew he existed. You know, like it was just kind of, it's one of those things where I'm just
Well, the
very
title
grateful.
alone, you know,
Yeah, exactly. It's
a
Fall
Norma
Out Boy
Jean
title
title
song.
or a Fall Out Boy title. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's
That's how we became buddies.
well, it's I don't know. I think there is kind of that I don't know, not emo, but like there's an emotional aspect to this film
Oh,
that's clear. You know, like
dude,
it's
If you saw Jonathan's like iPod, like the music he listens to, Kyle,
What's an iPod?
If you saw his iBuddy,
yeah.
No, he's a hardcore boy.
Well,
Like
that
he
checks
speaks
out.
our
That checks
language,
out.
man, and he grew up with the same type of music, but he grew up in the Miami hardcore scene. Like, Jonathan
Love
is
it.
just a
Love to hear it.
fucking dude, like just a stand up. Yeah, sorry, I'll
just
stop.
a dude being a bro, being a guy, being a dude.
Honestly, there's some dudeness about this film, but in a really guy type way. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I won't go on too much because, like I said, we've talked about it before, but I finally got around to seeing it this year, and it was definitely a standout for me. I think if you're looking for something that's a little bit quieter, but
Mhm.
it's darker in a way that's not like it. There's aspects that are for sure depressing, but I wouldn't call this movie a downer at the same time. Like, I think
I think it's such a downer, and that's why I love it.
well, I don't know. I think I wouldn't quite consider it a downer. I think
It's beautiful.
I think it is beautiful, and I think what works about it is it delivers what it's talking about directly and right away. So for me, it has that lingering feeling that by the time the film is over, like I feel like I've gone through everything with this family in a really concise way. And I guess just personally for me, I found that to be almost like cathartic in a way. So yeah, really love this one. Highly recommend. That is my number 5. My heart can't beat unless you tell it to.
That's so great to hear. And I'm very happy to, like, because that was one of those movies where I saw it. I was like, oh man, Kyle would love this one. Because it was Scott Hamilton's favorite of the festival last year. And like we all kind of generally like the same types of stuff. And it's one that just like it's grown for me over time. Jonathan was nice enough to send a screener over to Jesse Sawitsky and I while we were gearing up to film The Druid's Hand, because I kept on talking about it to Jesse, and watching it beside Jesse was like a man with no heart. Like Jesse has 0 fucking beating heart in his chest. Like he's just an asshole.
Jesse's heart can't beat until you tell it to.
Yeah, Jesse's heart won't beat even if you tell it to. But he was fucking floored by the movie, and I was just like, oh man, this is a guy who he doesn't normally understand art. So it was really nice that he absolutely loved it as well. No, it's
shout out.
it's truly, it's one of those ones I've watched so many times now, and it seems weird when I hope listeners reach out or go to look for it. It's on Shudder. And it's been really nice seeing, because he released this movie. We were the first people to play it through the pandemic in Saskatoon, and now since it's played, it's been winning awards like crazy. It's like been at the top of some really prestigious film list of the year. So I'm just very, very proud of my now friend. He's just a great human being, and he was a huge mentor for me on The Druid's Hand. So I'm very happy to see it on this list. I will shut Buzi. You're number 5.
My numero 50 is Slumber Party Massacre.
Baby.
Beautiful.
Is it on your list, Kyle?
It is.
Great. It was your number 10.
It was my number 10.
I think this is the highest for this one.
Okay, so we can all talk about Slumber Party Massacre now. So who goes first? It was my number 9.
Kyle,
I'll go first quickly.
Mitch.
My number 10. I'll say this was a really fun one to visit as a double feature with the original Slumber Party Massacre, because I think, not that they need to be watched in that way, but it's a great experience because clearly they're commenting on each other to some extent.
It gives you some interesting insight into what they're trying to say and do.
Well, and even just as time goes on, to see like how these discussions change and matter over the course of 30 years or whatever. So I think this film tackles it in a really, really creative way. And I actually really feel like the word creative might be used too often, but I truly mean that, because the first 20 minutes of this film, I was like, what are they? Because you guys had already seen it and you told me that you really enjoyed it. And I was like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm clearly missing something here. And I didn't really anticipate a huge shift in it either. And then it does make a direct shift and a really, I don't know, persistent turn that makes the film something really, really meaningful and special. So this is definitely don't judge a book by its cover type film, in my opinion. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, and it was my number 9, and so Danishka Esterhazy, the writer director of this one, I think she successfully reinvigorated a slasher classic and managed to surpass its original on all fronts. I think this movie, I really like the original Slumber Party Massacre, but I love Esterhazy's remake, and I think the thing it felt like such a breath of fresh air, for so many different reasons. One of them being it proved that there's still juice in the tank for the slasher subgenre when a lot of other ones have kind of disappointed me recently. And 2, it actually had something to say, something intelligent to say, and its statements were highlighted through the ridiculous nature and sexism in slasher films without berating the audience for outdated tropes. It's not going, yeah, you hear that, men? You guys suck. It's yeah, we know we suck. Especially white guys. We fucking blow.
Historically, it's a fact.
There is a really entertaining way to go about this without just bashing you over the head. And it's not the movie isn't anything but subtle, but that's what's so fucking good about it. Instead, she used humor and inversion to lovingly poke fun at what was once the norm in horror movies. And I thought the characters were fun. The killer was super memorable, and the kills were a riot. especially on the big screen. It was really nice seeing this one with an audience at the Saskatoon Fantastic Film Festival this year. I had already seen it at that point, but people were erupting at all the best parts. I fucking love this movie. I will say, on the second time that I watched it, the reason it's a little bit lower at my list now is the second time around, kind of just, if there's one negative I could say, is I think it does kind of drop the ball a little bit at the very end, specifically the last like 20 minutes where they incorporate another trope from a very, very famous slasher series that I didn't think it needed it. But at the same time, it does so many things. Just like it is such a brisk watch. It is so fun. The kills are fucking nuts. I love Slumber Party Massacre. So Buzi, why is it your number 5?
It's really hard to follow it up because you guys said so much smart and intelligent things, and I can't just go like, yeah. Like, I'm a hype man or something. I will say, I think that I taking in consideration for this movie is, like Kyle had mentioned, it was very insightful, and I think probably the best way to watch it, watching the original and this one, to see, because they're both fun. During our episode, we did mention we had a lot of fun watching both of these. So watching the new one, I think that, once again, like saying how fun it is this movie has a big time air of rewatchability. Mm-hmm. And there's also an air of you can have a casual viewing audience of people who maybe aren't as versed on everything about a horror movie, and you can put it into something like this. And the fact that it can put all those things together, which make it sound like it's just going to be something that's forgotten about right away, as kind of that run of the mill, like, oh look, we just updated whatever, because that's exactly what it could have been, is look, we just updated such and such, blah blah blah. But they didn't. They did an excellent job for this, and they made something fun that I think is going to stick around. I think people are going to really like this one. This is going to be something you're gonna watch at those like horror parties, stuff like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and who's having horror parties? I want to go to a horror party.
I don't know. I assume that kind of stuff, like, it's like get together. It's like, I assume this movie is like for a younger Mitch, or a Mitch in training right now.
I think a younger Mitch wouldn't have been smart enough for this movie, and that's not a knock against, like, it's one of.
I feel like this one is one of those ones where you'd be like, guys, totally. I know I showed you some really weird shit before. This one's fun. That's what I get out of this.
This one's like Teeth, but different.
The shower scene in a theater full of people, man. The feminist statement is so fucking brilliant in this movie. Mm-hmm. And it's like handled so well. And it not once, like, that's what I was meaning, is it doesn't feel like it's just berating you over the fucking head. This is the way to go about it. This is the way. I don't even want to bring up the other movie's name because I feel bad for punching down on it all the time. But Black Christmas, the remake of Black Christmas.
Fucking eat it.
Yeah.
Which one's that again?
Which one?
But no, Slumber Party Massacre just proved, like, it's like, man, this movie does all of that so right and so fun for both parties. Yeah.
We're in a good time right now. We have Slumber Party Massacre. We have Matrix Resurrections. Things are looking up.
Shut the fuck up. Can we please move on?
I think things are looking up.
We have that really bad I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
Did that come out?
Yeah, Buzi watched
abandoned it.
Some of it.
Oh God.
That's
awesome.
Too bad. Yeah, no, that's great movie. I'm really happy. So do we have any movies that are on all three of our lists so far? I think Slumber Party Massacre is the first.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's right. Yeah. So that's a Terror Table certification right there.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm at my number 4, and it's one of those things where I didn't realize just how much I loved the movies I saw this year, because, like, I love all 10 of these movies, and this one could have very well been a number 1. And my number 4 pick is Antlers.
Higher.
Yes. Oh God, at least I was just so happy to know that you liked it, because I know you watched it, but like, oh, okay, thank God.
Didn't see it. Didn't see it. Alert.
Okay, I
didn't see it. Alert. Alert.
Can't do another conversation with a dummy. But understood. All right, Antlers number 4 for me. So Kyle.
All right, dummies up. Okay. So this is a television series.
Ooh.
Oh, I love that.
This one, well, I mean, it's been talked about a lot, but
yeah, I know exactly what it is.
But I had to pick it.
Yo, guys, the new season of Mama Roo is off the hook.
So this, my number 4 is Squid Game.
Hey, okay.
Yeah, I feel like if we're gonna talk about 2021 as a year of media, like I have to include Squid Game. So
Dude, it was the Tiger King of this year.
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
Everybody's seen it.
everybody's seen it, and
That's a great way to put it.
That's a really fun aspect of watching and talking about it.
It's mind-blowing that a foreign language film, I guess people are probably watching with dubs too, like lots of dummies.
The dub
No,
is
they learned the language and came back to it.
Well, no, it's just like I was just thinking, I'm like, it's mind-blowing that that like a Korean series is so huge, just because I know a lot of people can't read.
Well, I think it's I would to an extent, maybe not totally, but I do think Parasite helped for that, because Parasite having such a big year right before it, I think, just generally speaking,
shout out Parasite.
Help people sort of I don't know, get past some of the bullshit of not watching films with subtitles or whatever. Anyhow, Squid Game, I imagine 99.9% of the people listening know everything about Squid Game. But this is a fantastic series that is just like the most binge-worthy thing I saw this year. I mean, that's probably what everyone describes it as, but there is really, really gripping dramatic elements, some comedic elements, and the story is just tight. It's a really tight story, and the set pieces are unlike anything else I've seen this year. It's extravagant, it's simple in the best way, and it has that kind of like childlike connection to it, that like schoolyard connection of like competition that is that thorough line throughout the film that just makes everything so engaging. That game aspect of it is what I think makes it so watchable, and it's also what makes the horror really I don't want to say palatable, but it makes it accessible. It's probably the word to use. The horror in this is like gruesome, but like everybody who isn't a horror fan or isn't into, genre stuff really fucked with Squid Game this year. And I think that's just a testament to like how you can pull off a story like this in a really effective way. And the only thing I will say about Squid Game is I still don't know if I fuck with the VIPs. That's the one thing that's still kind
the
of
Americans.
Yeah, the Americans.
Me too,
yeah.
man. That's like the only thing about the whole show
That's the only thing. But at the same time, it's still kind of funny. I don't think it's supposed to be funny, but it's a funny watch. So, anyways, that's the only thing. Because with that token, I think Squid Game is like almost perfect. It's a great show. Mitch did mention like, hey, let's consider putting television series on the docket this year. And so when we were talking about that, I thought, well, sure, why not? I'm gonna throw Squid Game where it rightfully deserves to be. So that's my number 4 of 2021.
All right. Are you guys ready for my number 4?
I just want to quickly weigh in just shortly. I loved Squid Game as well. And I'm so tired of there's so many people who just like kind of poo-pooed on it, I think because it was super popular. And
that's bound to happen. That just happens.
Yeah, it does. But the thing is, like, Squid Game was, like you said, the most like binge, like it was impossible to not binge.
There's a cultural movement, which is awesome.
Oh my God. And it's funny because this is absolutely nothing like Squid Game, but you had mentioned something about how it's like it has that childlike whimsy to it, like the schoolyard games things. It's kind of like when I was a kid, I had so many friends who had Toxic Avenger toys, where it's like, how the fuck are you watching Toxic Avenger?
I see what you're saying. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, great show. I was a big fan of that one as well. So, all right, we're going on to Buzi's number 4.
Yeah. So my number 4, this is in the spirit of also, I think this year is the year of having a good time. So my number 4 is VHS 94.
Oh
Ooh.
boy! Oh wow! Wicked.
Yeah.
Not on my list, but that's wicked, dude. Hail Ratma.
Hail Radma.
Kyle, higher.
Never peeped.
Ratma indeed.
Didn't peep. Hadn't peeped
Doesn't
yet.
know Ratma.
Yeah.
Kyle, you need to start hailing Ratma and doing a lot less of whatever.
I barely
right
understand
now.
the meme. I'll put it that way.
It's great, and you need to get in on it.
Understood.
I'm honestly surprised that this is so high on your list, and that's awesome to me. Like
I'll be
love
honest,
that.
I haven't seen this, and I'm not surprised it's on Buzi's list.
Mhm.
Something about it screams Buzi.
Buzi, were you previously like a huge fan of the VHS movies before this one?
I haven't even seen all of them. I believe
Yeah,
I've
see,
only
that's-
seen. Yeah.
That's what I mean by it, though. And that, like, I knew when I saw the Ratma sketch, which is the very first one, which so Kyle, you can watch that. Like, it's wild. We're also going to be doing an episode on it right away here. So fuck yeah. Sorry, you keep going.
Yeah. So I kind of wrestled with wanting this to not wanting it, but figuring out where it would go on my list in terms of higher or lower. And just kind of coming back to this one is I've watched this, I think 3 times now.
Are you serious? Holy
Yeah,
fuck.
but it's just the and obviously, like we talked about before, that certain segments aren't as strong as other ones to it. I think it's once again just something where it's an enjoyable film to maybe have on while you're doing other stuff. Or like I feel like this is a film that I'm going to watch multiple times and pick up small things within them. And I think that with these smaller stories, you also get to encompass moving through everything quicker. There's just something overall I really like about this series, and I think that some of the actual scares that each director came up with are very important and very interesting what they've done with them. And once again, I think we talked about this when we talked about VHS before, is just having that kind of 90s feel to it. And maybe it is not a recency bias, but a bias of like something I grew up with, where I remember watching like these weird ass VHSs where you had to squint to kind of see what was going on, even in like older horror movies. And it's not because they were filmed poorly, it's just because of the transfer and what you're getting out of that VHS tape that kind of makes it creepier. I love that you can't fully see what's going on.
That was like such a fresh part of what they did with the series by making it set in the 90s, you know. And I'm pretty sure actually wasn't the first one set in the 90s, but like it just didn't even,
you know, I want to say that it is hard to do anthologies that make you want to go back right away. I feel like a lot of you kind of toss and turn on. I think this one has some real fun stuff because you need to watch the first segment to Hail Ratma.
yeah, Hail Ratma.
Hail Ratma.
All right, so we are now on to number 3s.
Mitch, hit us with a number 3.
Welcome to our number 3s. And I have no idea. I know Buzi already had mentioned, one of you had already mentioned this one, and all of us had said it. Everyone said that it was higher. My number 3 is Saint Maud.
My number 3 as well.
That was my number 6.
Okay, so Buzi, do you want to lead us off with your thoughts on Saint Maud?
So I thought Saint Maud, it started off really, really slow. And I knew going in that that was its intention. And it just kind of kept ramping that way and building this character and these this relationship dynamic between this power struggle you have between your two main characters. And as that progressed, kind of watching that, and it started getting more and more aggressive, it was kind of like watching like a virus kind of take over this, and it turned more gruesome and
Shout out Omicron.
Yeah, and
Shout out
B2K.
B2K Omarion.
The Omarion strain. Anyway, where was I going with that? Anyway, I just loved that it kept feeling like a disease through this movie, that it kept getting darker and darker, and it kept towing these lines and making statements that kind of loosely take jabs at religion and stuff. Like I thought this was an incredible film, and maybe I would have it higher on my list if I had watched it again more recently, because I remember watching this at the start of the year and I was like, either way, this is definitely going to be on my list. So, and I just remember how memorable the ending was, and it was really powerful to watch that whole thing go down.
Fuck yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome. So Kyle, it's your number 3 as well?
It is. Yeah. And you know, this one in my number 2, I went back and forth on quite a bit. So
Same.
I mean, at this point, like these are all heavy hitters for me, pretty much.
They really are.
Yeah, man, Saint Maud was fucking fantastic. Definitely a bit of a slow burn, kind of like what you're talking about, Buzi, but I think in the best way, because
I don't mean that as a negative.
No, I know you didn't, but I think that's what I would definitely like. If I could just kind of describe this film quickly, like that's a great way to describe it, but in a really fantastic way. I love the way the film spirals out of control, like kind of like the virus kind of connection you're talking about, where like things end up just like taking over the film itself in a lot of different ways, like between especially our lead and then the person she's caring for, like their connection like is like it's insidious. Like it's like it really affects each other in such a connective way that I don't know if I've seen anything else this year, really, except maybe one other thing, but it's really different. But I would say that for me, the religious aspect was something that I really took away from, actually, because I think that kind of guilt that our lead feels and the way that they try to just exist, basically, and how other parts of their lives are hindering them from being themselves and expressing themselves the way they want to is really subtle, and the whole film is subtle. But to me, that was like a huge moment for me, and just in film in general this year. I thought Saint Maud was extremely striking. I love the way this film looks. I love the way it feels. Probably one of the darkest things I've seen this year in some ways. I think Mitch, you told me a while back, being like, okay, I've heard people have seen it. I don't think any of us had seen it at this point, but you said something on the lines of, okay, I know people have seen it and it's not what any of us really think it is. And some people don't even think it's a horror movie. And there might be some mixed opinions on this. So like, I'm excited to see it, kind of think is, what the fuck is this movie going to be about? Or how are we going to respond to it? And that was the only thing stuck in my head while watching this. I was like, okay, I think I'm in for a ride, but I don't know what ride I'm about to land on. And for me, this was like exactly what I needed. I think Saint Maud was like, honestly great, because I feel like A24 haven't really been hitting it too hard as of lately. But for me,
have you seen Lamb?
I haven't seen Lamb, and I've been meaning to watch it.
Yeah, that's what I have a little list of the ones that I haven't seen yet this year that I think could be contenders, and Lamb is at the top of that list, and I haven't had a chance to see it.
I've seen Lamb.
You saw Lamb?
Yeah, you saw that. I need to check it out. I think that might be the outlier, but I think Saint Maud is a cool example of, you know, that style of like A24 core sort of horror, but
it's one of their best.
It's one of their best. And I think, but at the same time, it's progressive. It's not totally exactly what you're thinking when I say that. So
yeah,
for that reason, it really stood out to me. And yeah, I love this movie.
Fuck yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is also my number 3. This was another movie that had a really complicated release, like you had said, Kyle. Like it was originally, it premiered at TIFF in 2019, and then it was released in the UK in 2020, but it didn't reach Canada until 2021. And I usually do a pretty good job of keeping my finger on the pulse of what's going on in like festival circuits, but I somehow managed to miss all of the hype and the discourse of this thing up until right when I was just about to see it. And that's what I was telling you, is that a lot of people were saying this isn't a horror movie. And then I watched, I was like, what the fuck are these fucking lunatics talking about? Like, this is a straight up horror movie. Like, it's just a very 2021 horror movie or 2019 horror movie. It's very like Rose Glass. This is her directorial debut. She wrote and directed this thing. And my God, insane. What an impression to leave. To have this as your first feature is just absolutely insane. I have a really strong connection to religious horror, though I'm not overly bothered by religious horror in my current age. I still love what this subgenre is capable of producing. And there's so many terrifying facets within religion. But the scariest thing in this day and age is the overly pious lunatics who believe it all and reflect all of the grim shit that's recorded in Catholic scripture. So this movie, there are people who just believe. This reminds me a lot of another recent horror movie that was a very influential. This movie and A Dark Song were very influential on me making my first foray into horror with The Druid's Hand, my first foray into filmmaking. Promise I'm not going to become that talks about my own shit all the time. This was one of those movies that really, really inspired me. And the reason it did is it did exactly what I'm trying to do with The Druid's Hand. What Jesse and I are trying to do is the filmmaking is like straddling the line between skepticism, belief, and delusion and reality. And I think this movie is a tremendous psychological, supernatural horror movie. And it's without a doubt one of my very favorite films of the year. This was one of the first ones I saw this year. And for the longest time, it was my number one. The movies kept coming in. They just kept, like Smash Mouth said, the days start coming and they don't stop coming. Yeah, that happened with movies. Yeah. And Saint Maud, like earlier today, it was my number 7. And then I went back and was, reading my initial thoughts on it because I wrote some reviews, and I was like, man, this is absolutely one of your favorite movies of the year. And just that brief trip back down memory lane, a short 1 year ago when I saw this was enough for me to be like, oh no, this is without a doubt one of my top 3 favorite horror movies of the year. And I absolutely love it. So Saint Maud, like I said too, while you were talking, is like, I'm a fan of what A24 does. I love that they're letting, younger or newer filmmakers take bigger swings, or, they're taking chances on some really obscure stories. CC Lamb and, The Witch, the fucking Hereditary. Like, there's so many different examples of this. But I think that Saint Maud is one of those ones that it needs more praise than it's getting. And I think totally the praise actually it deterred a lot of people. I think I know quite a few people who are a little underwhelmed by it, and that's totally understandable. But what I love about horror movies, specifically religious horror movies, this movie checks like almost all the boxes, and it's absolutely fucking devastating at the end. But it's also like
insane.
it's one of those ones where I was like laughing because I'm like, oh man, like actually my number 2 did this as well, where I was just like, I love how fucking dark it is.
Yeah, it's so fun to watch too.
Oh
Like,
yeah, because you can't. It's like
you can't turn away.
It's so mean and so wild that
It
you
is
can't
mean.
help
That's true.
but kind of
Yeah.
giggle because you're like, oh my god.
It's ruthless in like a really interesting way, you know?
No, it's on Netflix in Canada. I think it's still on Netflix in Canada. But if listeners out there haven't seen it, this is this now the second film that's been on all 3 of our lists?
I believe so.
So
Another
far.
telltale stamp of approval.
Yeah, so we got Slumber Party Massacre and Saint Maud are the 2 that are on all 3 of our lists.
Huge. That's cool. I never would have expected that actually. That's cool.
Yeah, cool. All right, who's up next?
Buzi. Yeah, Buzi, you're number 3. Because that was both of our number 3s.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because you guys had the same one. All right. So my number 3 is, and I'm sure you're going to be like, no, but my number 3 is Halloween Kills.
Oh, wow. I thought this was going to be number 1.
Yeah, me
No.
too. I thought this
Yeah,
was for sure
no.
number 1.
I knew this
Um,
was coming in. Just before we start, I just want to say, fucking have at her, kid. And just, I'm so happy
Your
that
time
you
to
loved
shine.
it.
I'm muting
it-
myself.
It actually kills me, no pun intended, that I'm not down this path with you, because I know, Buzi, the way that we started this new David Gordon Green Halloween series was you and I did a full series on every single Halloween movie.
That was some of the most fun I've had on the show.
Absolutely. And I take absolutely no joy in not being able to follow you down that path, but I am so happy that you love it. I just wish I could be there with you. But
Kyle
Buzi,
literally did mute himself.
Kyle just fucking hates this movie.
I'm back. Here's what I will say. I actually have this listed as an honorable mention.
It's because you've only seen 12 movies.
Wow.
Well, fair, but also because I did enjoy watching this one back to back with the film before, because I think that was actually, I think if I were to watch Halloween Kills like the way Mitch did, where you waited for it to come out, I think I actually would have liked this movie a lot less. Having the ability to watch them back to back, I did gain something out of it. Like, I didn't straight up hate this movie. I do think it's a drop in quality. That being said, I think
Can't
like
wait for Halloween Ends.
I'm going to be interested to watch the whole trilogy eventually, because I think that'll be the ultimate testament. I think that'll be the test. That'll be like, okay, like, what is this body of work?
It might be the glue that puts them all together.
Exactly. Anyway, but
Not likely, but
it could.
I do like this one more than 2018. I think it's more fun. So there's insane moments. But Buzi, tell our listeners about how much you love Halloween Kills.
So first off, I will agree with Kyle, because I did go and watch, after this, I did go and watch 2018 back to back with Kills, just to see it, because he had mentioned that how that did fit in there. And he's totally right. I think I gained a new appreciation for it that way, just having that experience of watching where they take Michael directly from 2018. I understand the drop in quality in terms of the annoying, like the evil dies tonight. Like we've discussed this at length. Yes, that is annoying, but I find that a lot of movies have a character point or a catchphrase or something that does annoy you, but it is something that you can get past, because I find this whole story of having the big chase through the whole town and kind of the rallying of everybody, I like some of that. I understand that it does feel a little bit forced with some of them, that you're like, hey, I saw you in the last one, we're best friends. I understand that there is a little bit of that, and I understand that they were trying to go for more of an element of trauma bonding. So some of those character points don't work as well, but I think that they really landed on giving us a solid lore of what the boogeyman is in terms of Michael, and showing kind of what fills in your brain in certain scenes that they never showed you in this. The fact that he literally does just get up, and he just keeps getting up, and I love the fact that they added in this point that he's kind of a, I don't want to use virus again as a term, but he's
Cult of Thorn.
Yeah, he's like this spirit that haunts
They're
him.
doing the Cult of Thorn again, just without the name.
you know what? As long as they're not like showing off tattoos and stuff, whatever.
We like the Cult of Thorn.
I know. I don't want everybody to all of a sudden have the tattoo,
Yeah.
because like I hated when Michael was just like rolling up his sleeve all of a sudden.
Yeah. Check out my ink.
It's just the fact that like you'd think about someone tattooing him.
I know. Who the fuck tattooed Michael Myers?
It's just some grimy tattoo shop
Yeah.
at like 4 a.m. They have to cart him in there. Don't kill this guy. But all that aside, I thought the violence was really good. There's still a couple moments of levity that's always in the script, or the last two at least. With Danny McBride, you're feeling a lot of those characters. You have the Big John and Little John. I still think that was a great little scene, and kind of
Forgot about that.
I kind of like that it defused the Myers house in this one, because that means in ends the Myers house is going to be vacant and all spooky,
And hopefully
set
be
up
nuked, because they got to nuke Haddonfield. That's the only way they're going to be able to end this evil.
That's true, actually.
gotta
That's honestly
nuke him.
true. That'd be cool.
Fuck, I would like I was telling on Cobwebs, I was like, I need Jamie Lee Curtis riding in like Ernest Goes to the Army with the bucket hat in a fucking tank.
I
looking
forgot about
for
Ernest.
Michael.
Who could forget, I guess.
Who could forget Ernest? But yeah, I think this film has really grown on me, and I am really looking forward.
You loved it when it came out.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
a
no,
fan.
I'm talking about like
And don't ever apologize for that.
no, I'm talking about it's grown on me in terms of how it connected from the last one, having seen that full motion. And I think it gains
Gotcha.
a little bit of appreciation if you
Yeah.
choose to go down that route.
And the nicest thing I can say about there's two incredibly nice things I can say about this movie is that the kills are fucking insane.
True.
Like there's some absolutely gnarly, brutal kills. It's pretty wild seeing Michael Myers be the predator, which is kind of fun. And this is the best he's looked since
Mhm.
John Carpenter's original. I think the shape looks fucking awesome
They
in that
just
movie.
keep making the mask look cooler.
I
Just
know,
when
just
think
keep
they
burning
can't-
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep burning it, throw some poison on it. Maybe they'll do the Chucky thing and throw him through like a conveyor belt and he'll have the stitches on the mask.
Yeah. Throw some pocket sand in his eye.
Okay. So Halloween Kills is Buzi's number 3. So we are on to number 2s, you guys. Numero number 2. Did I do that
Let's
right?
do it.
Numero dos?
Yeah, I
I told you I'm trying to learn a new language this year. I just haven't decided which one.
You're asking two
you're
other
doing-
people who don't know the language. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
doing great.
You're
bud,
doing
yes.
great.
I'm going to go with my number 2.
Okay, hit it.
This is a movie that jumped from, it went from my number 10 to my number 2 upon rewatch. My number 2 is Julia DeCarno's Titane.
Higher.
Oh boy.
Wow.
So I just heard I listened to an interview today that it's not called Titan, it's called Titan, or how do we say it?
Teton.
Fucking crazy movie. Okay, we'll get back to it. All right, so
Ooh.
it's higher on your list. So Kyle, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is from, guess what year, guys? It's Nia DaCosta's Candyman.
Oh, okay.
So this isn't on your list, Buzi?
yes, it is. That was my
Ye-
number 6.
Oh,
Oh,
sick.
okay.
Yeah.
Is this on
okay.
yours, Mitch?
I was waiting to talk about this one.
I think that's where we might have gotten confused because I don't remember Buzi nominating Candyman.
I think so, because we
Yeah.
skipped like a bunch all at one time.
I think Buzi
Sick.
skipped his and was like, "No, guys, it's your turn." But it was Candyman. All right, so now we got our third.
Fuck it.
We got our third film of the year that is
Love
on
it.
all 3 of our lists. It is the most talked about horror film on the tear table this year, and that is Candyman. So, Kyle, with it being at the highest on your list out of everyone, why don't you take us away?
Sure. Yeah, I think like you said, we've mentioned this film a couple times on the show already, but to me, this just bluntly is the way you do like a sequel, a soft reboot, whatever you want to call it, a continuation, spiritual successor, whatever it is. This is the right way to do it. This, like, people really should be taking notes because Nia DaCosta cracked the code.
Yeah.
I think obviously it can be done well, and it's been done well before, but to me, this is the best one in recent memory. It pays tribute to the original in the best ways and the right ways, while also giving a really, really touching, honestly, look at generational trauma and gentrification, and using art as kind of the catalyst for all of that in a really interesting way that covers contemporary, race politics, while also covering a personal narrative and the narrative of Candyman, the lore of Candyman. It's like just it's really smarter than I am. I think there's layers to this film that I'm gonna be like peeling back, because I think there's a lot happening here while still being, you know, a really fun and engaging horror film that kind of, to me, checks all the boxes. To me, this is just like a straight up great, like somewhat high budget horror film. Like this is to me, this is the template. I think Candyman does it right.
Awesome. So that's Kyle's number 2.
I also hate the bathroom scene, though. I have to say that one more time.
And shout out the bathroom scene.
That's the only thing.
So yeah, Candyman, most talked about horror film of the year on the Terror Table. I think it came up on 50 or 60% of our episodes. The last time that happened was Hereditary, and I know that's something we're kind of working on, some reworks on the show. We're trying to switch some things around in the new year, which we are now in, and I think that's going to take care of that problem. But make no mistake, I was so happy to talk about Candyman every time someone wanted to talk about it, because I'm fucking love this movie. Bernard Rose made one of my absolute favorite 90s horror films, and I thought it would be like damn near impossible to make a new iteration of Candyman without Tony Todd. I hate to sound like I'm one of those like idiots who rejects anything new, but Tony Todd is Candyman, much like Robert Englund is Freddy, like Doug Bradley is Pinhead. Yeah. But with Jordan Peele producing this thing, I had to believe he knew what he was doing by hiring Nia DaCosta to write and direct it. I know Peele also co-wrote it with another co-writer as well, but I was less cautious once the trailers started dropping. But man, this thing surpassed every expectation that I had. And now at this point, I feel like I just need sequels. I need sequels to this iteration. I need Nia DaCosta to do them. The style, the script, the cast, the fucking score. Fuck. Oh my God. Philip Glass.
Yeah, the score's great. Yeah, it's really good.
Philip Glass's Candyman score is iconic. And the composer, Robert Aki Aubrey-Lowe, he did exactly what Nia DaCosta did, and which is respect the original. And he married the original with the brilliance of the original with their unique perspective and vision. And I just think it's a wonderful, powerful, and important piece of horror cinema. And I want more. I fucking loved Candyman, and it's definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. So, Buzi, thoughts on Candyman?
Okay, so there's not a lot I can cover that you guys haven't already.
Sorry.
I just kind of want to mention how much in general, what really makes me love this film, and maybe on a rewatch it'll be higher for me, because thinking back on it, like I do love this movie a lot. Is I love that they explored the lore in such a fun way that is almost how urban legends really are. It's the way that they show it in so many different platforms, whether it be like drawn or spoken, or like all these different ways that it can be done. And just to have it, or even where it was drawn, like how it had it on the mirror inside the gallery, but just all this stuff that it reminds you so much of being a kid, hearing about the weird stories, like not that it was scary, but like the urban legend of like, oh, Marilyn Manson, removed his ribs.
Marilyn Manson sucked his own dick.
I don't. I just mean those ways. It's just in the way that like it
is just like that. You're right.
Yeah. Totally no, but what I'm saying is those stories like that, or like the Bloody Mary would be a much better example, obviously.
No, disagree.
Okay, so what I was trying to get out of that, and what I directed it to, is that it also reminds me a lot of, which is a better a version of this, is a Bloody Mary type scenario, where it builds so much lore that you or I remember from the schoolyard, and takes that whole idea and moves it towards today, and moves it towards more of a, how would you, like an urban location, and dealing with issues that way, and still having those myths built in with that, and adding it to the turmoil that's going on within these areas. I love that conflict right there, because it makes this lore feel so much more home for all these people that had to grow up with it, and just really bringing it to the forefront. And I remember when we talked about it before, like the scene with the, like how they actually bring Candyman to the present, fantastic. One of the coolest ways you could do it.
Totally.
Like, and that's what this movie, not that it hinges on it, but that's such an important part, is how do you bring this character forward to this generation? And it's the best way possible, obviously.
Yeah, to double up on what Kyle was saying too, is that Nia DaCosta has basically written the blueprint on how to, you know, reboot, reinvigorate a franchise, remake, and still respect its source material.
And I think respect is like the best way possible.
But
Definitely.
like the thing that this movie is gonna be known for, I think, as well, is like the time that it came out in and how horror is able to comment on political and social issues in really intelligent ways. I think Candyman's one of the best examples of that in recent years, and I think that even if there are people out there who feel like it was a little on the nose, I think that time is only going to prove that it needed to be. I even didn't think it was very on the nose, but like, you know, at the same time, like, you know, the one character's name is Brianna, and it's a pretty epic fucking ending, but it's a fucking gorgeous, awesome movie. So yeah, love Candyman. We can put this to bed for a little bit, unless, you know, some of our upcoming guests start talking about Candyman, because we do nearly talk about this movie every episode, but I think it deserves it. It's a great movie.
Don't think it, don't say it.
Agreed. Yeah. But also, I just want to say that my childhood friends, we all had the Candyman urban legend. Like, we all watched Candyman as kids, like the area that I grew up in. And the movie fucking wrecked all of us. Like, this was scarier than Nightmare on Elm Street was Candyman. And it was Tony Todd's performance. And also just like, it's such a haunting, fucking creepy movie. And it holds up so well. And they found a way to, they gotta do sequels, man. I want more. I want more of this.
I'd be okay if they didn't. I'd also be okay if they didn't.
But the way that they ended it, I need, like, the ending had me like on my fucking feet being like, oh my God. Like,
I kind of agree with Kyle. Like, either way, I think it ended in a perfect way where it's a great standalone. And if they do more with it,
sure,
perfect.
Totally. Yeah.
But it is a great standalone film.
Well, Marvel stole Nia DaCosta for the next few years. So
right.
We don't know what's going to happen, but yeah. Okay. So that was
my number 2.
That was your number 2. So Buzi, we're on to your number 2.
Correct. So my number 2 is Antlers.
Woo!
Huge.
Yeah. I think this movie was kind of stuck for a long time, and we were waiting. And that's usually a sign of a not great film.
But
not that I hold anything. Yes, not that I hold anything against it, but that was kind of a thing that, because at the start I wasn't that interested in this film, and then the more kind of built up, and I'm glad I finally got to see it, and I got to see it recently, so maybe there's a little bit of recency bias with that.
There isn't. It's awesome.
But I think that it does such a great job of giving you the story of all this deep lore. Once again, like kind of how we mentioned with Candyman, it gives you so much of this lore, and watch as the progression of what is some of the wildest shit you will ever see, and so violent, and it doesn't hold back, and it's really aggressive, and there's kids always at play, and we always talk about how
crystal meth Wendigo.
And like we always talk about, though, when kids get involved in storylines, there's a little bit more heightened urgency with that, and to see it where kids are in danger for quite a bit of it heightens it, and just the overall tension of it. And we had to talk about basically like the creature design.
Yes,
it's incredible.
I'm so relieved, Buzi, because unfortunately there's been a lot of dummies out there who don't like really, like, there's been so much dunking on this movie and people patting themselves on the back because they think they're smarter than it, and that's like not the case at all.
Right.
But sorry, I'm just kind of, this is one that's close to my heart, because this could have been my number 1 as well.
And maybe it's just me talking directly to you, Mitch, where I can kind of draw these parallels where we don't get these certain kind of films that often. We get to pluck a couple from each decade, that it's these kind of creature features that don't have any sort of franchise or anything. They're kind of just these one-offs, and I'll mention Antlers for sure, because it's the story of this Wendigo thing, and it's going to be basically any movie that tries to do anything with Wendigos from now on is going to have to compete with this. And I'd probably say overall this is probably the best.
It wrapped it.
Exactly. So
Scott Cooper wrapped the Wendigo story with this.
And you have those kind of creature feature movies like that. And I also want to put something like, shout out to a movie that I love all the time, is like Underworld, or Underwater, sorry, not Underworld.
I also love Underworld, but yes.
The little known film Underworld. But it's like underwater. You have these kind of fun creature feature movies that give you a deep lore and get you to play around with it, while also realizing it's a creature feature that just wants to be violent.
I'm so happy to hear that you enjoyed this, because when I walked out of the theater, this was, I had mentioned on my review when I initially saw it that I was like, the last time I remember this happening was Annihilation, where I walked out of a theater and I was like, Buzi, you got to go see this. Like, this is so much your shit.
And what a mean ending too.
Oh man, the movie is mean as hell. And I've noticed almost maybe more than ever that there were people out there who are really rooting for this thing to suck.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of people out there who really decided before they went into it that they were not going to like it. And it's because a lot of folks have really strong opinions on Scott Cooper. And if anything, I think that just proves how important of a filmmaker he is in this day and age. We have one side of the coin saying that he makes poverty porn. I've heard that tossed around a lot because this is the director who did Crazy Heart, Black Mass, Out of the Furnace, Hostiles.
I'm gonna have to check that out in my search history there.
Yeah, but no, and he's overtly mean in his movies. And then we have the other side of the coin, which is where I'm at, who thinks that he's just a genius and a master of restraint. Like he understands restraint more than a lot of people, and a lot of people do not connect to that because they want more. And the thing about Antlers is this is his most like unleashed he's ever been. I think like this is the most, like you see this Wendigo front and center multiple times.
Yeah, but it's a build to that,
and you see it up close and personal, and it's ripping people apart. It is a fucking crazy monster movie that is so mean and so dark, and I can understand why people wouldn't like that. But I think that there's so many lazy fucking arguments about this movie that just people like, for one thing, I think I think mood makes up 70% of Cooper's films. And I don't see that as a negative because dear God, can this man generate a mood? It says a lot. This movie says so much about generational trauma, drug abuse, and the systems that enable both of these things to continue and repeat themselves. And I think that that's something that people are missing entirely. I'm not trying to act like I'm smarter than everyone who has seen Antlers and didn't like it.
But you are.
But I have
that's correct.
But that is what I am doing. Yes.
which is correct.
Yeah, but I'm correct. But no, it is like that. Those are themes that to me, I was just like, how did you not see that? Like, it's kind of very obvious. Like they talk about the school system, they talk about the family housing, and how this movie set in this small mining town, which was filmed in Hope, BC, which is just a mere less than an hour away from me. I drive through it all the time, and oh my God, is that like my dream location to film a fucking movie in. So seeing Scott Cooper, one of my favorite directors, be able to, he's like this prestigious director who's won Academy Awards for Crazy Heart, make this gnarly mean ass horror movie in Hope, BC. Oh my God, I just fucking loved it so much. Jesse Plemons,
Jesse who
is always amazing, and he's so good. Fat Damon, shout out.
Jesse where?
Yeah, there you go. I know you were waiting for it. Carrie Russell, who's someone who I don't normally love, I thought she was fucking incredible in this movie. The little kid stole the show, though.
Yes,
like the little boy who, this is based off of a short story by Nick Antosca, who he's one of the co-creators of Channel Zero. He's done a lot of really awesome horror work over the years, but I don't know. I just think, like anything, the allegory isn't perfect because this is also trying to serve as a horror film, and it's as vicious as it is depressing. And I absolutely love this style of storytelling. I'm so happy that it made it so high on your list. Like I said, this is one of those ones where it's like, it could have been my number one. Yeah, like I said, he literally just capped the bottle on Wendigo stories. It's like, we've been waiting so long for a really gnarly Wendigo film. This is it. There are moments that felt like Alien, and then there are moments where I was just 100%. Like, oh my God, that was one of the most gnarly fucking transformation scenes I've seen since American Werewolf in London. And I'm not being hyperbolic there. There's a scene in this where I was like, it was painful to watch. And
yeah, you don't get this all the time.
It's gnarly. Like, this movie is fucking dark. No, I loved it. So very, very happy that it made it on both of our lists. Hopefully Kyle We'll pick up a book.
Yeah, I don't really know. I guess is Amazon sort of thing.
I mean, if you want to go to the Amazon.
Are you a Scott Cooper fan though? Like have you seen Crazy Horse?
Yeah. I mean, I don't honestly, he's one of those directors where like if you were to say like who's your favorite director, he wouldn't like come to mind right away.
Yeah.
But when I look at his filmography, like, yeah, I mean, I generally like most of his work. Crazy Heart's great. And I think when I saw
Out of the Furnace, I
actually haven't seen Out of the Furnace, but I just looking at the variety of his work though, it's interesting to like, in a way I'm like, wow, geez, he's tackling like this style of horror, but at the same time it's like, okay, well, if you look at his filmography, he's kind of done a little bit of everything, so like why not? Like,
yeah.
So that gets me excited to check it out for sure. It's definitely one that has been on my list for a while.
Who do you think? So actually, I'm not even going to jump to this because I'm sure you could name off 5 right now, but Jesse Plemons, one of the greatest living actors. Would you agree?
I probably would agree. I'm sorry. I just saying his name really elicits a certain
Jesse Plumpkins. He is he is the new Philip Seymour Hoffman. Though.
Okay, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Just let me reset.
Funnier for me because I recently had that name stuck in my head and I was just like saying it to myself. Jesse
Plumpkins. Let me reset. Just let me reset.
Shout out Brent Hibbert.
I'm just gonna reset. Okay. Yes, I agree. I think Jesse Plemons is absolutely commanding the screen right now. I mean, he's kind of in everything, but there's a reason for that. I haven't seen Power of the Dog yet, but I mean,
it's so good.
Apparently, he gives a great performance in that. He's been in just standout roles.
I'm thinking of Anything is your favorite film of last year.
Exactly.
Favorite horror film.
He was fantastic in that.
Friday Night Lights.
Of course, Friday Night Lights. And then The Irishman. He's been in tons of great stuff.
Oh yeah, and Black Mass,
and just killing it over the past 5 years, especially, I suppose. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this one for sure.
The reason I brought it up is because like he had said he was on Mark Maron's podcast recently, and they were talking about Antlers, and he had said that he's like, Scott Cooper is the one director where it's like he doesn't even need to read a script from him. He will do anything he wants him to do because he believes he's such an important auteur.
Wow.
And I entirely agree with him. But I think there are some people who just think they're a little too smart for not liking Scott Cooper movies.
I find that interesting because to be honest, like I feel like since his work is so varied that there's not really like, I don't think of one thing when I think of Scott Cooper's work, and that's not a bad thing to me. But what I mean is like,
I think of poverty.
I mean, you kind of have that in my head now because you mentioned it 3 times now. But beyond that, like when you think Wes Anderson, it's an obvious pick. I know exactly what people are saying when they say that, or Spielberg or some other things. But yeah, I don't really understand the hate that you're describing, because to me,
as someone who has seen all of Scott Cooper's films, I can understand, because he does have a very like similar style spread out throughout. But that's just what he knows. That's what he's really good at writing, and it's what he's really good at directing. And I'm happy that this thing wasn't a train wreck, because there's lots of times where prestigious directors take a whack at horror, and horror might not be as easy as everyone fucking thinks it is. It might not be so easy to write off as people think it is.
Well, and like Buzi said, like the release was kind of weird too. That is always a concern. I know it's a weird time to release a film, obviously, but even then,
and like the only reason I knew that is I knew like about the release thing before I even knew what the plot of it was. So for something to be like that, like that has to be more than just me, because I'm usually pretty fringe on knowing that sort of thing. So like it did have that weird kind of stink going into it. So it's like, oh, this thing's finally coming out. So that's what like Mitch is talking about. You have a lot of these like fringe people who will go watch stuff like that who wouldn't usually. Yeah. Just because like they'll watch the main, like the Conjuring stuff, but they won't watch a lot of the other stuff. So then they, you'll see that come out, and that's totally fine, because that's more people are going to be watching it. But that's an audience that it wasn't directed towards, who probably doesn't have the same kind of patience for it.
Buzi's number 2 is Antlers. My number 2 is Titan. Kyle, what is your number 2?
My number 2, of course, was Candyman. So let's move on to our number 1s. Whoa. I'll go first. Let's do it. My number 1 film, horror film and film in general from 2021, is Julia Ducournau's Titan.
Also, Buzi, this is like zero disrespect, because it's, if anything, it's just me loving you. Okay. Not a Buzi movie.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I still want you to see it. I mean, it's my favorite movie of the year. I think I could.
Well, I mean, the fact that it came out of nowhere and both of you
So-
have it on the list.
I know Buzi so well that there is no fucking way that, and I totally understand why. It ticks off all of the shit that Buzi doesn't like in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it doesn't
Oh, there's time travel, isn't there?
Close.
it doesn't scream Boozy, but I mean, I would say I would recommend.
I'm interested if it's that high on your guys' list. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. That I think that's reason enough, I
it
suppose.
speaks for itself.
Yeah. So it's just kind of a hard one to talk about because I think if you know anything about this film, most folks will probably tell you go in blind, try to know probably as little about this film as much as you can. So I won't really go over much plot about it because I think that does a disservice to the film. But I'll read the letterbox description just to give a brief idea. Following a series of unexplained crimes, a former firefighter is reunited with his son who has been missing for 10 years. So that just scratches the surface of what this film essentially covers.
That's the description. I've never read that. It's like, what the fuck?
But it's not wrong. But like what Mitch is reacting to is there's just a lot more happening in this film and a lot more batshit crazy
Is that
stuff.
kind of just like a microcosm of what's
Well,
going on?
It's definitely a large aspect of it, but there's just there's other major things happening as well. Just when you think this film is the most insane thing you've seen, it becomes
Crazy.
the second most insane thing you've seen.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot happening here. This is the same director of Raw, which made my top 10 of the last decade list. I love that film. And to be honest, as much as I do enjoy that film, I kind of felt like there was a few things holding it back from being like a 5 out of 5, but I could obviously see like the promise of this director.
This
That
is
was
so much better.
I think that was her second feature,
Yeah.
and this is her follow-up to that film. This won the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year, and which is great.
So well deserved, but fucking insane.
Which also Spike Lee famously outed because they were like announcing the awards for the Palme d'Or, and we kind of did the way we're doing our show today almost. Normally you would announce like the sort of bottom tier, not bottom tier, but the lesser important awards, I guess, not the heavy hitter awards, and then you'd give the Palme d'Or at the end. Instead, Spike Lee just straight up said, okay, Palme d'Or goes to Teton at the beginning of the conference, and so everybody had to sit through the rest of it with no anticipation. Hilarious moment.
What?
Spike Lee. Okay, wait, that happened. Like he told everyone that Titan won.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my
he
God,
read it
that's so
incorrectly. It's a hilarious clip on YouTube. It's so funny. Anyways, very besides the point, but that just gives you an idea that this film has a lot of critical buzz, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's for everyone. This is my film of the year, so I definitely give it the cosign, but it's for sure one of those things where 15 minutes and you might just turn it off because it's just not for you, and totally fair. For me, this is the most visceral, heavy-hitting thing I've seen all year. There is so many things covered in this, from identity to compassion to connection between humans in general. There's a lot of stuff covered here, and there's some of the most gruesome shit I've seen. There's a particular scene including a stool that will never leave my brain, and it's just crazy.
There's a lot of stool scenes.
There's just one in particular that I can think of, but it's a wild ride. I don't want to give too much more of the plot away because it's so specific that if I said more, I think I would be doing a disservice. So I'll let Mitch kind of give his thoughts on it. But for me, this is just a wonderful, wonderful film. I was actually really looking forward to seeing this. It was probably my most anticipated film of the year, and it lived up to that, and probably then some, honestly. So yeah,
that's a home run for Kyle.
Big time. Loved it.
Yeah. So it's a French extreme film. This is without a doubt a French extreme film.
The best one I've seen, if I'm being frank.
Okay, I would need to give it a little bit more thought, but man, I think that it punches at the same league as the best of them. I think that this movie also, it's a body horror film that punches in the same league as Cronenberg at his finest.
Wow.
Like, I think that this is a movie that Cronenberg would be proud of shit to see, because it's so clearly inspired by a lot of his work. Yeah, like she took home the Palme d'Or for this thing, and it's understandable why. Like, this film is provocative, it's emotionally complex, it's cringe-inducingly violent, and it has viscera to spare. It is a delightful addition to the horror subgenre, the body horror
For sure.
subgenre. And having watched it twice now, I am certain that this is going to be a film in discussion for decades to come when talking about extremity and psychosexuality in horror films.
And in film in general, I don't know if I've seen another film that's ever tackled the issues that this film does in this way, and with not only with respect, but with something to say and something to show.
Yeah, it's so make no mistake at me giggling off to the side about this movie is I'm laughing because it's so fucking crazy that, and also I don't want to overhype it for people because I've seen more extreme movies. I wouldn't say
that either.
The most extreme film, but it's just that when the extremity hits, it hits so fucking hard and it actually serves a purpose. And it's like, you know, you put it, who's the director who does movies like Rubber?
Oh fuck, what's his name?
But
yeah,
you know what I mean though, where it's like this has got influence from like films like Rubber to films like
Quentin Dupuis,
Dead Ringers, they just in so many strange ways. And the reason I decided to put it so high up my list is because though we have French extreme movies, I don't think that we have one this perfect. Like it kind of nails every single thing that it's going for. And I think it might be like, actually, you know what, Kyle, you just said it might be the best of its class.
I think so, because I think you make a good point, Mitch, because like we've covered like on the show, even like Martyrs, Inside, things like that, where films we all enjoy and they're insane and we gain something from them, but at the same time we would all probably make note of like one or two things that like are outliers and for them kind of being like excellent.
And there's none of that here. Yeah, there's no fat to trim here. Like it was that movie, like when I first saw it, I was like, obviously it left a huge impression on me, and I was like, okay, yeah, that was fucking crazy. I don't know if I'll ever watch that again. And something about it was just telling me to give it was this and The Night House that I revisited before coming to this top 10, and it made a world of difference for me to see it a second time because it's so much to take in. I also like I'm always skeptical of making it sound like something is more complex than it is, because that's not the case here. That just might be my personal viewing experience. But if you look at the movies that I love, you know, historically, listening to the Terror Table, Titan is not one of those movies where like I have a strong appreciation for this stuff. But the thing that I love most about it is I feel like it did something different. It did something really different, and it did it exceedingly well. I thought that Raw was fine. I thought it was a little overhyped. Like I know Buzi and I, like, it just didn't work overly well.
Click with me at all. I remember.
Yeah, like one. I was like, it's a good movie. I see what they're doing. It's very well made. But Titan is like,
it's next level.
So much better. Oh, it is like masterful.
It has the lead actress in Raw in this film as well, actually.
Yeah. Is that? Wait.
It's the kind of love interest. I don't want to.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Not the main character. No. So I was like, no.
No.
Oh yeah. Justine. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. But yeah, like Agatha Roussel, who plays like Alexia, the main character. Talk about a transformation and a difficult ass role to step into. And she absolutely annihilated this thing. I thought she was so good. And same with like the firefighter Vincent, like the dad figure. I'm just gonna keep gushing about it if we don't move on. But I co-sign Kyle. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's my number 2. Yeah. It's your number 1. A great film. It's so fucking good. And yeah, shout out Titan. Shout out Titanium. Whatever it is, I love it. All right, are we going on to number 1?
Yep.
Oh, that was your number 1.
That was my number 1. Right. Mitch, Buzi, who's going number 1?
I guess I will go next. All right. So my number 1 is Caveat, directed by Clayton Whitmer.
Ooh.
Nope. Or sorry, not Clayton Whitmer, Damien McCarthy.
Shout out Clayton Whitmer, though.
I just had that because that's my honorable mentions here. But
Barbers.
Yeah. So shout out to Damien McCarthy of Caveat. Kyle, you have not seen this yet.
I haven't, but I was literally just reading about this film the other day. So this one missed me, but I'm happy to hear this was so special for you.
Yeah, and I feel like I forced Mitch to watch this without forcing him to watch it, because I just kept gushing about it.
You just told me that you're like, without it, and this was like 6 months ago. You told me without a doubt it's my favorite movie this year, and I'm like, Buzi, don't do that. Don't
Yeah.
don't commit to that right now. It can be a great movie. You don't need to say it's the best of the year. But then I watched it and I was like, yeah, this is a fucking wicked movie.
Yeah, I think it just deals with a lot of concepts and makes you have to stay with them. I think that's the biggest thing, and it's just about being stuck in this house and the kind of the presence of what's going on in this house and kind of what unravels. You have a main character with memory loss issues, and it does a great job of using a lot of camera tricks to stay with your main character, so you're only getting fed information as your main character gets it. And with so many different things going on in this film, it makes it so enjoyable as it builds up to turn into kind of this like haunted house film. And one part of this film involves the fact that your main character cannot leave the house, and the way that they create that is it's very interesting. If someone would have explained it before I saw it, I'd be like, that's a really weird way to get someone to stay in a house, but it works. And watching it makes so many scenes more uncomfortable because you're forced to stick with a character who's having such a hard time within this place. So yeah, that's my number one. I think this is a fantastic film. It's an Irish horror film. I don't know if I'd mentioned that before. And yeah, just an incredible performance all around. It has probably one of the scariest scenes I've seen in a horror film, and I don't mean this lightly when I say it is like one of the scariest things I've seen. And it's directly, you're seeing so much inspiration from like Alien involved in this. So
This is my favorite thing about what we do at the Terror Table, is being able to highlight movies that not everybody has heard of or not everybody's talking about. So I absolutely love that you put a film like Caveat at your number one. I co-sign on that. Everything that Buzi said. I thought this movie was super fucking wicked.
yeah, and that's available on Shudder. They had that right on the front there. Go check it out.
Yeah. It's one of those movies that the first 20 minutes, I was like, I don't know if I can buy into this. Like, there's a plot device that I'm like, I just don't know if I can believe this. And, wedging myself for that. It's a movie. Shut up, Mitch. But it pays off, and it does it in a really intelligent way. So, huge shout out to Caveat. That movie was wicked. All right, boys. My number one, and we're closing this
I
thing
already know
out.
what it is.
Do you know what it is?
I know.
Yeah, of course I know.
Is it that obvious?
It's definitely
Oh,
obvious.
of course.
Is it that obvious that the best fucking movie of the year was James Wan's Malignant?
Wow.
All right. Well, yeah, I knew
Wow.
going in here.
Yeah,
It was just-
motherfuckers.
My number
In the
6,
words
by the
of
way. This is
Buzi-
my number 6.
In the words of Buzi, Malignant.
Right.
This is my number. No fucking way.
Yeah, this one didn't really catch on in the Buzi household, but that's okay.
No, but so Kyle, this was on your list as well. What number was it at?
Number 6. This is number 6 on my
Number
list.
6. Okay, so my number one is Malignant. James Wan made a horror movie for true cult horror movie fans and proved that if you're a popular and successful director in the mainstream, dumbasses will not accept you. I'm not saying that everyone who doesn't like Malignant is a dumbass.
I hear you.
I'm not
I'm
saying
feeling
that, though,
shade
Buzi. I
even
truly
for
actually don't believe that. I don't, because the thing is, there's so many things about this where I'm like, this is so clearly not a Buzi movie. This movie is so much to handle.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot in this one.
This movie is fucking absolutely mind-boggling insane. It is the director of Aquaman going on to make any movie that he wants to make, and he makes an homage to Basket Case.
Huge move.
This is fucking nuts. He knew exactly what he was doing. And I know that there's a lot of James Wan trappings, like some questionable CGI and just stylistic choices that I can understand why someone wouldn't like.
But it's also fire.
It's so fire. Everything about this movie is fire. This is the most fun I've had watching a movie this year. And that's why it's my number one, is simply that it was something, it encapsulated so much of what I love about the genre and what I've grown to love about it over the decades that I've been a fan of. Like, I stem back to the 80s, like 80s camp trash. That's like kind of my bread and butter. That's where I got started with horror, and then I just kind of progressed along there. This movie blends in so many of all of the things so many things that I loved about this genre, and put it on the big screen for mainstream audiences and had James Wan's name on it. A director who's now become well respected among mainstream audiences. Like, you know, this is a guy who made The Conjuring 1 and 2, the Insidious 1 and 2, Saw.
I mean, he restructured horror basically. I mean, he pretty much,
Yeah, he did. He's one of those guys where I feel like people easily write him off because of how successful he is and because they're like not head over heels over Saw.
Michael Bay could never, you know.
Michael Bay, mid.
But I feel like James Wan's kind of got I know this is going to drive some people crazy, and just know that take this with a heavy grain of salt, but kind of compare him to Steven Spielberg in a way, where it's like he has made these like crazy, really successful, wild movies, and then he goes off and does something different.
I 100% get where he's coming from.
He has his hands in so many different jars that no one takes him seriously as one thing. And when you think about James Wan, the horror director, you think of Insidious or Saw. Everyone thinks of something different with James Wan.
And they're all huge.
They are all huge, except for Dead Silence, which there's even some Dead Silence in this movie. There is every little fucking brand and little dark, greasy corner of horror is sludged into Malignant. And it knows exactly what it's doing. And it knows exactly what it's trying to be. And I think it does it all so incredibly well. And knowing the fact that I can say that I saw a movie this year that was directed by the guy who made Furious 7 that has a tumor talking through a boombox.
That's icon. That's icon shit right there.
Ballsy move.
Honestly, for me, it was the Pixies needle drop. That's when I knew. I was like, okay.
Oh, I love that too. And see, I love that. I don't normally like. I'm one of those guys who doesn't necessarily hate needle drops because sometimes they're really fun and effective. I'm actually going to be recording an episode on the new Resident Evil tomorrow. And that's a movie that was directed by Johannes Roberts, who did like 47 Meters Down, Strangers, Pray at Night. And it's like, that dude relies on needle drops. And boy, are there needle drops in that Resident Evil movie. Fear Street, there's needle drops like crazy.
And this film is just one single example of like,
but it's a remix.
Well, exactly.
A movie that's already been claimed by Fight Club.
It's like, well, that's the point. It's like every little thing in here has so many layers to it. You know, it's like, and I mean, maybe they all work in different ways and maybe to varying effects, I suppose. But it's like every little piece has some sort of obscure meaning, you know, and it's not that like it's. I don't know, like some like sort of like intellectual concept. I'm more saying like there's just like, to me, this feels like a scrapbook. Like there's little pieces behind every single photo. There's every little like, he really is, and you can tell like the heart and attention to detail is clearly there. Like
he's a true fan though, man. That
totally, yeah, for sure.
He's totally like he's just a cinema fan, and you can like for me, I see a lot of Raimi in him, and Sam Raimi is like one of my all-time favorite directors. And but the thing is, I see so many other influences in him as well. And I'm not gonna lie, like when I was watching Malignant, I had like for the first time, because I've watched it like 4 times now, I had like a little bit of whiplash because I'm like, wait a minute, is this movie taking itself too seriously, or is it completely fucking stupid? No, it's both. It's like very rarely does that work.
There's a box quote right there. It's both.
Oh man, like the fact that Malignant, a movie called Malignant about a tumor,
You're trying to get at Kyle
had
here. He's
better action than a movie in the Matrix series,
but
this year is insane.
At the same time, they're actually tackling very similar things.
They totally are. I will give you that,
which is awesome.
But oh my god, I love this movie so much. I absolutely love it. It's without a doubt my favorite horror movie of the year, just because I had so much fun with it. It was such a breath of fresh air because it was like I get to watch like one of my idols make a bonkers fucking crazy movie after making a Fast and the Furious movie and an Aquaman movie.
He's really done it all. This is the true Mr. Worldwide.
You really, yeah, a jack of all trades.
I love Malignant. That is my number one favorite horror film of the year.
3 very different number ones from the table.
Yes. Kyle, we're all wrapped up. That's it, baby.
We're done.
We got it.
That's a wrap, folks.
Oh, wrap it
just
up.
Like Scott Cooper wrapped the Wendigo subgenre. We just wrapped the top 10.
It is wild that he did that in one fell swoop.
I want to make sure I return snowboarding kids to Family Video before I wrap it, because I don't want to return it, because I want to wrap it first so that I don't have to buy it. I want to make sure I rent a game and wrap it.
Snowboarding Kids, I've never heard of that game,
What? Oh, it's so good.
Really good game.
but I've been playing 1080p on N64 recently.
Huge game for N64. Shout out.
1080 snowboarding.
It's kind of depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I'm the kind of guy that rents Mario 64, wraps it, then returns it. So
Yeah. Oh my God. You should have kept it.
my uncle, my dad actually works at Nintendo, and he wrapped every game.
These are my favorite conversations at the
Stop
park
lying to us.
with kids who are like, my uncle actually created Nintendo.
My dad owns and runs Netflix.
He wrapped every movie.
Yo, have y'all heard of Dreamcast? All right. Just to keep this going, we got probably another 20 minutes of just things where we'll talk about honorable mentions, and we'll talk about films that we're looking forward to in 2022. If you guys don't mind, I just want to lead off saying that originally I had asked if we could consider TV shows this year, because I had 3 that I wanted to highlight, but I decided that I wanted to focus on I wanted to make some room for some independent movies that maybe not everyone has heard about, like The Vigil. In a weird way, Saint Maud is one of those ones, Coming Home in the Dark, Slumber Party Massacre. These are movies that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about. So I wanted to make some room for that. But my favorite piece of horror cinema this year was Midnight Mass. Mike Flanagan has proven time and time again that he may be the best currently doing it. In a sense that he can generate scares while weaving a compelling story in a style and cadence that is only comparable to Stephen King, who is possibly the greatest storyteller of our generation right now. I think Midnight Mass is one of the best things he's ever done. Was an extra emotional experience for me because there are a lot of correlations between my first short film, The Druid's Hand, and Midnight Mass. We had finished wrapping on Druid's Hand before Midnight Mass had come out, and it was like, oh my God, there are so many similarities here. And the only reason I mentioned that is because it's like, that's kind of magical that this guy is like one of my biggest influences, and I love his work so much. And though I do not think that what I created or what we created is absolutely nearly as good as Midnight Mass, it's kind of cool that, inadvertently created something sort of similar, or something that tackles the same subject matter. I love his heart. It was amazing. It was like one of the best experiences of my life, seeing him introduce Stanley Kubrick's The Shining and then Dr. Sleep, and to talk before and after both of those. It was an incredible night. Getting to meet him was surreal. Midnight Mass, without a doubt, is my favorite thing that I experienced this year. Number 2, I want to give a special shout out to a show that I was praising and then turned on, which is Chucky, the TV series. I finished it. The real life Andy Barclay from the originals is in this Chucky TV series.
Right.
And I think it continues and it builds on the entire original lineup of films that has now spanned decades. There's now been decades of Chucky, and it's all a part of the same story, free of retcons. There is no retcons. They acknowledge every single step of the way with this character, and that's something that you do not see all the time. They incorporated a plot point that shifted my perception of everything, that was kind of making me turn on it, which I was mentioning before, that included Fiona Dourif, daughter of Brad Dourif, who famously voices Chucky. But man, did they completely fix that for me in an episode. And it was like the next episode, I was like, oh boy, completely back on board now. I know I'm not the demographic to be commenting on how effectively queer something is, but this show is so unapologetically queer in all of the best ways. And it's tough to not think that Don Mancini's moving mountains here. I think that he's really doing something special with this series. There's multiple main characters in the show that are queer, and not a single one of them feels like it's even close to tacked on, and like some other mainstream attempts have. But there are a ton of shows where the heart is in the right place, but they kind of have been blurred in the depictions of queer relationships. But in an odd way, Chucky feels seamless and organically a part of the Chucky universe. Like, it's so nice seeing even Jennifer Tilly being back as Tiffany. this is a woman who is born for this role, and I think it's kind of amazing that she was able to build on that character and extend Tiffany's legacy. Also, Marty McFly's mom, she still got it, still bang.
Huge.
She's in this Chucky series, and there's not one, but there's two Devon Sawas.
I love Devon Sawa.
I was a huge fan of the Chucky TV series.
I'm glad you came around on it.
Holy shit, I'm so happy that this show was a hit, because they're going to be doing a season 2. It's a blast. Last thing I'll mention for TV, What We Do in the Shadows continues to fucking slay.
I still got to catch up on that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I will say that I think that season 3 wasn't as strong as season 2, but there's still some amazing moments. I think that the show really became Colin Robinson's show, which I will not complain about, because I fucking love that character, and there's so many hilarious moments. And oddly, I've never really been my least favorite character in the show is the main character, which is Nandor. And season 3, Nandor really proves himself and has some pretty amazing moments. And I'm just still a huge fan. I absolutely loved What We Do in the Shadows. So yeah, do you guys have anything you want to mention in terms of TV? I know, Kyle, you already mentioned Squid Game, but Buzi, would you like to mention anything?
Yeah, I actually have one. And this one's from Shudder. This really hooked my attention, and actually me and my girlfriend, and we've been destroying it. The Boulay Brothers drag show is fantastic. It just finished airing. I think the season finale was like 5 or 6 days ago. If you guys are into drag, and even if you're just into like creature design and stuff, because the whole point of it is they take that concept of basic like runway drag, but they add that you have to base it around a character, create a horror character, and like the bloodier the better. It's really
cool.
Fun, and yeah, it's such a
I've heard so many
such
amazing
a fun
things
show.
about this show.
Yeah, so this is the 4th season, and it's great. It's like a lot of the people doing this, fantastic prosthetics. So
yeah, I heard, because I know it was originally just like a free YouTube show.
Yeah.
And then that's how they got picked up. So I'm pretty sure the first season is still kind of like YouTube aesthetics. And then they just kept their production value kept boosting, and the show kept getting better. But I've heard nothing but great things about the Boulay Brothers.
Yeah, and the quality of like, yeah, because we're actually going back now and watching the older seasons because of it. But yeah, the quality's just gone up, and it's so fun to watch.
That's awesome. Hell yeah. So shout out Boulay Brothers.
And I would just like to mention, in terms of shout out for film, I kind of gave it away because I said the wrong name before, but shout out to Clayton Whitmer with The Arbors. Fantastic film. To check it out on Tubi. Yeah. Or anywhere else it is available.
That's in my honorable mentions as well. Clayton Whitmer, slow burn, moody, atmospheric creature joint. Like, that movie was really cool, and I really enjoyed talking to him. Very nice guy. And it's very cool how they made that whole movie happen. So
beautiful. For my honorable mentions, I don't have another series other than Squid Game to speak about, but I have a couple for film. One of which was one that I think I talked about earlier this year, but I didn't get a chance to see when it came out last year, and that is Black Bear. One that also kind of, I don't know, maybe a lot of folks ended up seeing this year. I'm not too sure. Kind of a festival film, but loved Black Bear. Lawrence Michael Levin creating a really kind of mind-bending film with Audrey Plaza, giving the best performance of her career. If you haven't seen this one yet, highly recommend checking this one out. It's one that I've been meaning to revisit, actually, because I keep thinking about it, seeing other stuff, especially things that are like very self-referential, which if you've seen this film, you understand what I'm talking about. Highly recommend this one. And the other kind of oddball one that I'll mention was one that I was actually recommended from a friend of the show, Jay Luke. It's it's the Demon Slayer anime film.
Oh man, I've been wanting to get into this. I've heard it from multiple people. Shout out Alexis Olenek, also previous guest of the show. Big fan of Demon Slayer.
This was my entry into it. I haven't seen the series. I've been meaning to, but me and my girlfriend watched the film and we loved it. It was just like insanity. I highly recommend it.
There's a movie?
It's the highest grossing film in Japan history. It just beat out Spirited Away.
Wow. Is it like anime or is it live action?
No, it's anime. It's I'm gonna butcher this title.
So you could start there with the film and then watch the series, because I know I've heard the series is awesome.
I can't verify. I'll put it this way. I haven't seen the series. I watched a standalone film and I totally knew what was going on. I got it. It to me, it was a good jumping in point, and it's made me really want to go and check out the show.
And you've seen Malignant and you understood it. So
Exactly. It's a film. It's a just insane. I mean, it's capital A anime, basically. It's just anime to the extreme. And it all takes place on a train to Busan-esque type shit. It's or Snowpiercer, more actually, probably good example. But anyway, really, really recommend this one. It's Demon Slayer, the movie, the Mugen Train. It's a blast, just like nonstop insanity, campy at times, but really, really cool character design. Yeah, a really, really fun one. Highly recommend.
That's
this.
gangster. I'm gonna put that at the top of my list. Can we bring that back, saying that's gangster? Remember that?
Yeah, I think we can. 50.
We should just start bringing back everything, and just whatever sticks.
Yeah, risky, but I like it.
Yeah, like that's guys, that's fat.
That's fat. Oh man.
Fat Farm, baby fat was good.
Yeah, I feel like that was a good counter bullying, because you're like, it's pretty hot and talented. Like, what else do we got? Is that it, or do we have more to talk?
Shout out Demon Slayer.
Okay.
I have a couple honorable mentions. Buzi, do you have? Is that it for honorable mentions for you?
I will just say the one other one is my favorite movie of the year was The Mitchells vs. the Machines.
Yes. Fuck yeah, buddy.
Incredible.
That was my number 2 on my normal, like, just non-horror list. Number 1 being Pig. So if people haven't seen, Kyle, have you seen Pig yet?
I actually haven't seen Pig yet. I need to watch that.
Pig is like the only movie this year that changed me.
Huge. Shout out Pig.
It's one of those. Yeah, it's a great movie. My honorable mentions, I have Censor, which we had already talked about. It was on Kyle's list. The Arbors, and one that I had seen the year prior, 2020, but it just got a wide release in 2021, was Honeydew. That's one that we watched in the cinemas.
The festival.
Yeah, Devarro Milburn's Honeydew. Very, very twisted, creepy little movie. I believe it's on Shudder now, and it's starring Steven Spielberg's son, and Devarro Milburn. He just made a very weird, gross, gnarly horror movie. I would compare it to Charlie Kaufman making the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it's a strange movie.
Mm-hmm. It is very strange.
Yeah, the one that just missed my list today, and it was tough leaving it off because I really, really liked it, and it's the last one I'm going to talk about. A Quiet Place Part 2. I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed A Quiet Place Part 2. I liked it more than the first one. I know it took some heat for, like, I know I took some heat for picking apart some plot holes in the first one, which I now fully admit that I was being a dingus about. But this one has way more plot holes, but I just didn't care because it was so exhilarating. There's more monsters, there's more world building, and more insane direction from John Krasinski. The direction in this movie is so good that I can't help but wonder how many people really directed this thing. And I don't mean that as a dig, but it's like, this is a massive budget film with hundreds of people working on this. Did Jim Halpert really execute the fuck out of some of these nutso sequences? Like,
Shout out Jim.
there are moments in A Quiet Place 2 where I was like, that is like mind-bogglingly amazing direction, and it's awesome. Buzi, have you watched it yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because I think you'll feel the same way because I know you and I were both kind of lukewarm on the first one. Holy fuck, man! Like I really liked the second one. It's crazy. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Before we close up shop tonight, before we end this episode, looking forward towards 2022. What are you guys most looking forward to in horror? If you guys haven't had a chance to really take a look, I can lead us off, but just let me know.
I got two here that I'm really looking forward to.
I also have 2.
Most notably, number one, most excited to see what comes of this is Nope by Jordan Peele. That's to me, that's something that I just is going to be special.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's made 2 banger films. Us has actually really grown on me over time.
Love it.
Not that I hated it, but I've learned to appreciate it in ways that I didn't previously.
And shout out Steven Yeun starring in Nope.
He is, along with the Keke Palmer. Shout out Keke Palmer of Jump In fame. And but also he's got like the same cinematographer for Let the Right One In on this, and the person doing the score that did Get Out and Us as well. So
Oh my god, and the score for Us was like my favorite.
yeah,
And Get
so
Out's a
I think
masterpiece.
this is going to be sick. I actually don't know really much about this film beyond who's attached
You're
to
not
it,
supposed to.
but you're not supposed
Just
to.
enjoy
And
it, baby.
so that's exciting for me. The other one, which tangentially horror, but The Northman,
Oh,
really exciting to see
Number one.
kind of what that becomes and what that is. I mean, it's Robert Eggers. He's the goat.
that's my number one most anticipated 2022.
I guess just quickly, I'll just say I am actually kind of curious to see what Raimi does with his Marvel film. I mean, it might not be horror, I have no idea, but
Also on my list.
I've oddly kind of been getting into Marvel lately, and so I'm
Because
excited.
No Way Home was fire. Shang-Chi was fire.
I haven't seen No Way Home yet.
Are you serious?
I know.
Holy shit, dude. It's so good. I watched it twice.
But I even liked Eternals. I'm a psychopath.
So shout out Chris Hurtado, former guest of the show, said that like the amount that Daniel and I loved Shang-Chi, he's like, everything that you guys love about Shang-Chi is even better in Eternals.
See, I think I like Shang-Chi a little bit more, but I loved Eternals. I thought it was awesome. I don't know. Anyway, those are my picks.
Cool.
Or sorry, what I'm looking forward to.
Buzi? Pumpkin?
So I just kind of quickly checked what you guys were talking, and everything I'm excited for is things that I already am familiar with in some way. So maybe I'm not looking hard enough, or that's just kind of what this year's presented so far. But I'm really looking forward to Salem's Lot.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah.
I didn't even know about this.
Yeah, they just announced it a little while ago.
Is it a movie or a TV show?
A movie.
What?
Salem's Lot is yes.
What the fuck? I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
Is it by the guy who made Venom?
I
Just
actually
kidding.
can't remember who's on to direct it, but it's one of my favorite Stephen King. I actually read the full book. The TV series itself it's whatever, but there's some genuinely good stuff. I just think the story itself is going to be it's an incredible story, and I'm excited to see that in present date and updated for today's audience. The other one I'm going to
Directed by Gary Doberman of Annabelle Comes Home.
Yay.
Yeah.
Obviously we're all looking forward to Scream. That goes without saying. That's right around the corner.
Totally.
Next weekend, baby.
Yeah. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
How do you feel?
Right.
Did you watch the trailer?
So ready for it.
I've learned to be cautiously optimistic with Leatherface and Texas Chainsaw, but like, fuck, I hope this is great.
The closer it can be to 2003s, the better. That's really all I want. And then the last thing I'll mention is Halloween, the last installment of Halloween. Halloween Ends. I'm excited to see that wrap it up, because we've been waiting so long. It killed me that they had to put off kills for an entire year. Like that hurt that we had to. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to survive. What if the pandemic gets me? Like that's just,
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, like you said, Buzi, it's a lot of familiar properties that we're going to get to see a return from, which I don't hate. That's a part of.
No,
I'm a Nightmare
totally
on Elm Street fan, man. Like I'm a Friday the 13th fan, so I'm fine with sequels. I just want something kind of interesting. And you know what? Not every time it doesn't happen every time. We don't always get Candyman by Nia DaCosta.
I think we're doing better in this generation's film landscape in terms of paying respects to original properties versus like how wild it was in the mid 2000s.
I think the people with money are starting to see that people who love horror like are the ones that are going to show up. So I think that's just going to hopefully keep getting better, knock on wood. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this new one, the Old Man Leatherface, I'm very curious. I will be there day one. I know it's going to go straight to Netflix, which is pretty wild. I would have liked to see this in the theater.
It is such a wild concept.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to see in the theater, but at the same time, I also saw Leatherface at home, and it was awful. So I that would suck to go to the theater for that. Evil Dead Rise, the new Evil Dead film.
Right, I totally forgot.
Yeah, there's a new Evil Dead film coming out. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, like Kyle said. I'm cautiously optimistic about all these horror comparisons. I think I could give a fuck if it's horror. Just knowing that Sam Raimi's directing a movie again is enough for me to get excited. Halloween Ends, like, never gonna learn. I'm always gonna be excited for these things. Terrifier 2. I'm very curious to see what's gonna happen with Terrifier 2 because I know, Buzi, you weren't.
What can they get out of that story still? I
think Art the Clown is nuts, man. And like, I know I've only seen the original Terrifier once, but it left an impression on me just for being nuts.
That's fair. And it did on a lot of people, obviously. It has a huge following.
Yeah. And that's why I'm kind of just excited about the idea of a new slasher icon. The Requiem, which is the new Alicia Silverstone shark film produced by friend of the show.
Right. I knew I was forgetting something. 100%.
And so a big year for Aaron B. Kuntz. We got the Requiem coming out, and also they had announced Scare Package 2.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a sequel to Scare Package, so I'm very excited for that. But now I'm at my top 4. Nope, absolutely can't wait. I just am on board for anything Peele does. Scream, y'all know me, baby. Still same OG, but I've been low key. Hellraiser,
Hated on by most of these MCs with no cheese.
David Bruckner, director of The Night House and The Ritual and Amateur Night, is doing a Hellraiser reboot this year. It's going to be coming out, and I can't wait. I think that if there's someone who has the tact and skill to handle a Hellraiser reboot, it's him. Mm-hmm. And my number one non-horror and horror, by far number one most anticipated movie of the year is The Northman. Robert Eggers' The Northman. I think it looks awesome. And I know not to expect an action movie, even though the trailer's 2 minutes of straight Viking fighting.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's not going to be that.
I've seen his movies. I know not to expect 2 hours of fucking Gladiator.
There's no way.
But I don't want that. I want, oh man, who is it? Like Bjork is
huge, massive,
playing like one of the witches. Oh God, dude, I cannot wait for that movie. Been a great year in horror. It's going to be another great year coming up here. Obviously, these are just the ones that have been announced and we've been able to access now. But yeah, great year talking horror movies with you guys. I hope you guys had fun.
It's been a blast.
This was great.
And I think we can wrap it up for
let's wrap it.
Wrap 2021 up. Next episode, I'll be back doing there's going to be a whole bunch of episodes dropping, some of which are going to have Kyle and Buzi, some of which might only have one of them. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be taking care of some Druid's Hand backer episodes. So with that being said, next episode is going to be for sure myself and my friend and one of the crew members on the Druid's Hand who contributed to the Kickstarter, Derek Yakimchuk. We're going to be talking about Resident Evil from 2021. And Ace Ventura.
What a partnership.
Those are his choices.
Shout out Derek, afraid of heights. He really got through and he got up on those ladders. I'm proud of him.
Yeah. And shout out to Derek who bought a $45 AFI crop top.
Even bigger.
Massive.
The W's don't stop.
Yeah, and also we got a couple other episodes coming up. You can expect to hear a full episode on VHS 94, which we'll be talking about with our homie Big L from New York City.
Hell yeah.
Elio, he's going to be coming on to talk about VHS 94, and then a whole bunch of exciting things that we got in the pipeline for 2022 Terror Table. All right.
Sick. Yeah.
Sick. I got a few things to shout out quick. I was recently on my buddy Zach Tennett's podcast called Formatted to Fit Your Screen. Great podcast. One of my favorites from the Saskatoon area, but he's based in Montreal now. And yeah, we went over our favorite films of the 2010s and talked about the 2010s in general. So it's a really fun episode.
I have it downloaded. I'm planning on listening tomorrow. And I can't wait to scream when I hear you talk about the French Dispatch. I don't know if you've seen it, but
no, it's of the 2010s, not 2021.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't seen French Dispatch yet. It's mostly under the skin porn. And then also my band River Sling, we just put out a full-length live video of a set back in September. So peep that. That is go on YouTube and just check out like River Slim live at Amigos. That's a fun watch.
So good. Yeah, slim it up with your Slimers.
Yeah, you know when people got slimed and
it's exactly like that.
You could be like that, but you could get slimed.
Yeah.
Which is just straight Kyle cum.
Well, it depends how you look at it. But if we're being honest, that is what it is.
If we're
Very
keeping
not,
it real.
very not COVID friendly.
Nope.
Not 420 friendly. All right. Okay. Well, thanks so much for listening, you guys. Thanks again for
Thanks for listening.
another year of the Terror Table. And we'll see you next time. Oh, also, I just want to shout out, very last thing before we close up. We got a couple negative reviews on iTunes a couple of years ago. I think they were like 1 stars.
Hell
And
yeah.
I just checked today for the first time, and we're back to a 4.8, baby, because
Nice.
a couple other people gave us 5-star reviews,
Hell
and
yeah.
like I don't recognize any of them, but thank you.
Thank you.
And also shout out the trolls that gave us 1 stars. But it was just funny for me because I'm like, oh yeah, baby, we're fighting our way back from this.
They hate us because they anus.
Yep, that's exactly it.
That's it.
All right, nerds, we'll see you next time on the Terror Table.